No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so guys, today we are doing VUM, and VUM stands for Vsphere Update Manager. It is used to update ESXi environment. It is equivalent to WSUS or SCCM in Windows environment. It can update VCSA, ESXi host, virtual machines with VMware tools and appliances. And a quick definition of an appliance says that it is pre-installed, pre-configured application, and the example is VCSA. Because VCSA, we downloaded it. It was as an ISO, and it was we just ran the ISO, and then it went through stage 1 and stage 2. Remember when we were installing VCSA, it went through stage 1 and stage 2, and at the end it was completely installed. And just like that, there are many other appliances as well. And the other examples of this is VUM itself. VUM is an appliance, and also there is something called VDP, which is known as Vsphere data protection. So these are, and right after VUM we'll learn about VDP. So these are appliances. So always remember, appliance is in the form of OVA or OVF file, number one. Number two is an OVA and OVF file contains all the files of the application, all the files of application. So VUM can update all of them. And then what type of updates are available in VUM? So what type of updates are available in VUM? In VUM, it has security patches. It has upgrades. It has security patches. It has updates. Updates are features that can be added to ESXi host, features that can be added to ESXi host or VMware tools. And it has upgrades as well. So VUM has upgrades, VUM has security patches, it has upgrades. Now upgrades from previous version to a newer version. Previous version to a newer version. Now previous version to a newer version, example is ESXi previous versions were 5.5 to 6 to 6.7 and to 7. And there was few other versions in between, but the example of upgrades are that you're completely upgrading these versions. So what are the components of VUM? So components of VUM are, number one, VUM appliance, VUM server or appliance, number one, and okay, Faz, do you have a question?
Example, is it the same like updates? Example for updates is equivalent to upgrades, sir?
Example of updates are small little updates, like so it's like a security patch. It's just a small software that can add something or that can fix something in the operating system. So remember that in Windows, if we go to Windows updates, so in Windows updates, there are all types of updates. There are security patches and updates as well. So just like that, which is right here. So here we can see that if I go to Windows here and within check for the updates, so at the moment there are no updates because Windows automatically updates itself. But what it does, it not only updates the system, meaning add new features in this in Windows 10, but it also has security updates as well. So update is a small software that is sent from the vendor or from the provider to update any operating system.
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome.
So, sir, it's mean for the patches and updates, we have to, as a VMware admin, we have to schedule the updates, right? We cannot do it in the daytime.
As a VMware admin, yes, for sure. So when updates are done, they are done in off-peak hours. So they're not done basically in the daytime, because you cannot change anything on the ESXi host. So vSphere Update Manager. vSphere Update Manager, if we can look at it right from here. So basically vSphere Update Manager, once we install vSphere Update Manager, it will be working. Actually, first of all, I just wanted to show you a diagram. So it will be exactly like this here. So here we have vSphere Update Manager. This is vSphere architecture. Here we have many ESXi hosts. There are many data stores on this side. So this is a complete cluster of ESXi hosts, and it connects to a vCenter, and vCenter has its own database, and it connects to Update Manager. So Update Manager will receive all of the updates from internet, and from here, it will update the complete environment. So it will update the vCenter, it will update ESXi host, it will update the VM as well. And Update Manager has its own database as well. So how many databases have we seen here? vCenter has its own database. So whenever you install VCSA, it has its own database. Now, why don't we see that database? Why haven't we installed any database? Because this database is always embedded inside vCenter. So we're using an embedded database. And what is the definition of a database? The definition of a database is that it's a collection of information from where vCenter is connected to. Remember that in vCenter, we have information of all ESXi hosts. We have information of all the data stores. We have information of all the shared storage that is coming from iSCSI. So all that information is stored in this database. So database is embedded inside. Now, why is this database embedded inside? Why is it not a separate database? Guys, it's not a separate database because we installed a tiny installation of vCenter. Remember that in stage 2 of vCenter, I think in stage 1 of vCenter, it asks for that how many, so what type of vCenter installation is it? I mean, is it a tiny installation? Is it a large installation? Is it a medium-sized installation? At that point, we selected tiny installation, and tiny installation is anywhere from 100, that can host 100 ESXi hosts. So most of the places in medium-sized organization, you will find a tiny installation. And for a tiny installation, it has embedded database. So interview question is that what is the database used with vCenter? The answer is, if it is a tiny installation, it will be an embedded database. And what is meant by embedded database? Embedded means that it is part of VCSA. So you don't have to install a separate server. In large installation, we might need to install a separate server for the database. But this is a tiny installation and it is embedded inside. Now the second database, now we are seeing that the database update manager also has a database, and it is exactly like in WSUS. So WSUS had a database as well, and it was Express SQL Express that automatically is installed when you install WSUS. So WSUS is that service. Remember that it receives all the updates from Microsoft, and then it can update the environment. Exactly like that, VUM is also one of those servers that can receive all the updates. It will store them in the database and then update the environment.
So can you repeat the last sentences, please?
Yes.
One is embedded
Yes.
that can host almost 100 to 200 ESXi hosts, right? And
Exactly.
what about if there are more ESXi hosts? So you need a separate database.
Yes. So embedded database is basically a database that can host 100 ESXi hosts, and we don't have a choice for that. So I mean, we cannot choose between selecting an external database or internal database. So embedded database is basically a database that is for VCSA that sits inside VCSA. Okay. And
Okay.
if when we choose medium or when we choose large, then we have a choice where we can select a separate database, which can be a SQL database, it can be an Oracle database, it can be any other database. But for large environment, there will be a separate database. A smaller environment, it will be the embedded database.
Sir, I need to ask one thing. So, is it mandatory? For example, if we want a separate database for 100 ESXiOs, so can we make it, or is it mandatory that we have to go with 10?
Yes, so if it is a large environment, more than 100 ESXi hosts, then it will be mandatory that you must have a database. So in large environment, it will ask you for the server name. Now, in that case, we will install a new Windows server in this environment. And on that server, we will install SQL server. So SQL server, once that is installed, we will only provide the link to that SQL server, and rest of the work vCenter has to do itself.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
So if it's not an embedded database, suppose if it's a large organization,
Mhm.
so who will install the SQL database? Is it our
Uh,
responsibility or like database people, they will handle it?
Right. So in a large environment, not in a medium size environment, it might be your responsibility. In a medium size environment, so you will need to install Windows Server and then you will install SQL. But since we are not SQL experts, so the database name is MS SQL. So since we are not a SQL experts are who? These are DBAs. So
That was my
DBA, yeah, database administrator. So in a large environment, I mean, large as Rogers or Bell or Dell, these environments, they have a separate team of DBAs. They have database administrators. They are responsible for creating a database server and providing you a link. But in a medium-sized environment, your manager would. So first of all, in medium-sized environment, medium size is an environment that definitely will be less than 100 ESXi hosts. Medium-sized environment will be considered as anywhere between 10 to 15 or maximum 20 ESXi hosts. Whenever it goes more than 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 ESXi hosts, that is not a medium-sized environment. That's a large environment. So in a medium-sized environment, you'll be dealing with the embedded database, but in a large environment, there will be a separate team that will be managing the SQL database servers. Now, even if you know how to install SQL database server in a large environment, you will still not have access to that servers, because those are special servers and they are managed by DBAs, and it should only be managed and administered by DBAs. So it will be their responsibility.
So just sir, our responsibility is just to VC center database. That's it, right?
Your responsibility will be, let's say this is a large environment, and large environment meaning more than 100 ESXi hosts. So when you are installing VCSA, and on stage one, when you need to when you select that it's a large environment, or let's say medium environment, it's a medium. Once you select a tiny environment, tiny means it's 100 ESXi host, and medium means that it's more than. As soon as you select medium selection within stage one, at that point it will ask you to link to SQL server. Okay, and this link to SQL Server will be given to you by DBAs. So you will request to DBA to provide the link to connection to SQL Server. So this connection to SQL Server will be provided to you by DBA. Okay, so this is what the difference is.
Oh. But
So
rest will be their job, not ours, right?
no, okay, hold on. So they will provide you a link, and then it means that they have a separate database of this type, right? And then what is your responsibility? So you will start vCenter, you will log into vCenter, you will start adding ESXi host, you will start making cluster in that, you will start configuring DRS and HA and everything. So once you start, this is all your responsibility. The database is their responsibility. Now, so what is the boundary between the responsibility, your responsibility and their responsibility? So in case if this database goes down at any point in time, so for example, one day you're logging into a VCSA and you're getting an error message, connection to database failed. So that at that point, you will first of all check your own networking connection on vCenter. And if everything on your side is fine, your networking is fine, your IP address is fine, and everything is fine, it's just a database connection error, then you will contact the SQL admins or DBA and ask them that your database is not working. So from their end, they will fix the database and then they will connect. So your responsibility is handling VCSA and the complete environment, and their responsibility is only handling the database. Okay. Okay, so there is a question from Abdullah. First of all, is it possible to spend some time on briefly explaining proper procedure of copying and moving VM to ESXi host and environment, what files will be copied, and precautions to take? Yes, so we can explain that, copying and moving of a VM. So moving of a VM, we already discussed with VMware, but copying of a VM meaning moving a VM from one ESXi host to another, which is known as V2V migration. Sorry, this is copying of VM from one place to another. Okay, so we can touch that as well. Is there a tool you recommend like Vmzip? So Vmzip, I've not used Vmzip. What is this used for? Vmzip, because there are many tools that that can work with VMware.
Yeah, so Nanda, I have not used this Vimzip, but it is recommended by many people. Like when you have a Veeam backup environment, then this tool is something will take care of all the things what we can do it manually. So I'm more interested to know about the files, what type of files that need to be taken care of, and when if we want to move it. And addition to that, if there is any tool like Vmzip, I have never used this Vmzip, but maybe this is doing all the things automatically that we can do it manually also.
Okay, so Vmzip is a tool from Veeam. Okay,
Yeah.
Veeam. So Veeam is a company. Veeam is a large company. I've used their products like Veeam Backup and others. So Vmzip probably is one of their tools, third-party tools that can be used to leverage backup in VMware environment. So the native tool of VMware is called VDP, which is Vsphere Update Manager. So Vsphere Update Manager, most of the companies, if they're not comfortable working with VDP, then they can go for Veeam backup. So most of the time, large environment will buy a Veeam backup. So Veeam backup is it works almost like same as VDP, but I've never worked with Vmzip before. So today we will be discussing about VDP as well. That will give some idea about backups in its environment. Okay. Okay. So in the meantime, since we need to basically, we will be, so I'll just, in the meantime, guys, everyone start your environment. So I haven't started my environment. So I'll just take 2 minutes and start this environment. So I need a Windows server and ESXi host 1 and 2. Okay, so I'll just let it start in the background. Okay, first of all, let's finish one topic and then we'll move on to the next one. So first of all, Vsphere Update Manager. So Vsphere Update Manager, going back to here. So vSphere Update Manager and the vSphere Update Manager components are vSphere Update Manager server itself and the VUM client and the VUM database, and we'll see the architecture in a moment. So the configuration is you need to have network connectivity, you need to download settings, you need to download schedule, notification, VM settings, host and cluster, and VApp settings as well. And we'll see the architecture. The first thing that we need to understand about VUM is what is a baseline. So baseline, it's a group of multiple patches, extension, upgrades, and includes patches. So for now, guys, let's quickly look at the definitions, and then I'll show you the architecture. Then this will be all clear. So remember that there is a baseline we need to create. Now, what is a baseline? Baseline is basically a set of, baseline is a set of updates. So here, if I can write here, let's say I can choose baseline. You can think of it's a set of updates. So let's say for today, this week, I have three updates to be sent to all ESXi hosts. So I would say update 1 and update 2. Just like in Windows Update, there are, let's say, 3 updates are there that I need to send to ESXi host. Now, these 3 updates, let's say these are released now this week from VMware. So updates are released from where? They are released from VMware website. So VMware website, they keep on making updates, and they release these updates just like Microsoft. Every second or third Tuesday they release out updates of the month. Every second or third Tuesday, which means the third week of the month or the second week of the month, Microsoft release updates. So just like that, VMware also releases update. Let's say for this week they release 3 updates. And these 3 updates needs to be sent where? These 3 updates are being sent to ESXi host 1 and ESXi host 3. And so 1, 2, and 3. So these updates needs to go here. But so before we can send these updates, first of all, what we do, we create a group of these updates. That group is known as baseline. So this is why whenever you need to send an update to ESXi host, first we create a baseline. A baseline can be either only one update, it can be a group of updates. So this is why here on the slide it says group of multiple patches and extensions or upgrades. It includes patches related to vSphere environment. You can attach baseline to ESXi host and apply all in one go. So which means, so what is the baseline? Baseline is nothing but a group of updates, or it can be one update, or it can be one upgrade. But once you create that group, that group is known as a baseline. And once that group is created, you can attach that group to attach that baseline to ESXi host. So basically, once that is done, then what we do, we attach the baseline where it needs to send to. So for example, if it needs to send to a cluster, so remember that all of the ESXi hosts are part of a cluster. So this is a cluster and all of the ESXi hosts are part of the cluster. So you can attach this either to a complete cluster, or you can attach that baseline to one individual ESXi host. In both cases, as soon as the baseline is attached to any ESXi host or a cluster, it will you can run remediation, and all the updates will be installed on this ESXi host. So from this slide, the thing that we need to remember, what is a baseline? Baseline is nothing but a group of updates or group of patches. It can be just one update. It can be a lot of updates sending to ESXi host. Or it can be baseline can also be just one upgrade. So for example, now a newer version of Vsphere. So newer version of Vsphere 7 is now out. So the version. So I have Vsphere 7. I had installed Vsphere 7, and we had both the versions available. Let's say if you need to, and your current version on your environment is 6.7. So all we need to do is first of all download this version from VMware website. We will go to VMware website, download this version, then create a baseline of this Vsphere 7 upgrade. So this is the ISO, basically, that ISO that we downloaded here. So what we'll do, we'll create a baseline, and baseline is nothing but select this Vsphere and create a baseline. Once you do, then we attach it either to a cluster. So if you attach this to a cluster and then remediate and then start upgrading, then this will be very, very risky. Why is it risky? Because you are upgrading all the ESXi hosts in this environment. So instead of attaching this to a cluster, what we do, guys, we attach it to individual ESXi host, which is less risky. So then your question might be, there is a question that, let's say, what happens to all of the VMs on this? So on all of the VMs, when we send an update, when we push an update, what happens is that this VUM will make sure, the VUM software will make sure that all the VMs that are sitting here, first of all, these all VMs move to other ESXi hosts. So these all VMs will be Vmotion. And once this ESXi host is completely empty, then VUM will proceed with the upgrade. So this, it will do automatically, that it will put it into a maintenance mode. Maintenance mode is set to be, maintenance mode of ESXi host is set to be when ESXi host is completely empty. So once my ESXi host, just started my ESXi host environment. So what it does, Vsphere Update Manager, VUM will first place this server into a maintenance mode. So this is known as MM mode. In maintenance mode, what it does, it will move all of the VMs out of the ESXi host. Now, why are we moving these VMs out of this ESXi host? We are moving these VMs out of the ESXi host, that this upgrade will definitely restart this ESXi host. Because the current version is 6.5, you're upgrading it to 7. It will first of all add all the files here, then it will shut down the server and then install the newer version. So when shutting it down, these VMs will not be available. So for that reason, VUM will first place the server in maintenance mode, and then which means, what is a maintenance mode? Maintenance mode is nothing but moving all the VMs to other ESXi hosts. And once they are on the other ESXi host, then it will complete the upgrade. And once the upgrade is done, then cluster will make sure that all the VMs are balanced again in the environment.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, if this one is not recommended, so why they give this option for cluster?
No, cluster is always recommended. Cluster, cluster. So your question is about cluster or VUM?
No, this upgrades. So
Yeah.
as you told, yeah. As
Yes.
you told me,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I said that it's not recommended to send the upgrade directly to the cluster, right?
Yeah.
So it is not being sent to the cluster, because if you send it to the cluster, then cluster will start upgrading these ESXi hosts one by one. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when we upgrade a server, especially I'm talking about the upgrade, I'm not talking about the updates. Updates are smaller patches that are sent to all of the ESXi hosts. So these patches can be sent to the cluster, and from the cluster it will be sent to to all of the ESXi hosts, because most of the time these updates are not required to restart these ESXi hosts. But remember that upgrade is a serious change on the ESXi host, because you are completely moving, you're removing the older operating system and you're upgrading it to a newer operating system. So since it is a major change on the system, so this is why we won't send it to the cluster.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so now let's see one more time this. Okay, so before that, I'll show you the architecture. Let's first understand what is a baseline. Guys, baseline is nothing but a group of updates. So first of all, remember that this is called a baseline. Secondly, types of baseline, there is a host baseline, there is a VMs and VA baselines. So host baselines are critical host patches and non-critical host patches, whereas VM baselines are VM tools upgrade to match the host, and VM hardware upgrade to match the host, and VA baseline, which is appliance baseline. So it's just that, so baseline, so whenever you have patches that are sent to the host, these are called host baseline. So this is called host baseline because these patches, so let's say patch number 1, patch number 2, patch number 3, they need to be sent to ESXi host. When you are sending updates to ESXi host, these will be known as host baseline. But if you are sending updates for VMware tools on VMs inside the ESXi host, those baselines is known as VM baseline. So that's the only difference. So here, process of patching the environment. First of all, we create a baseline, and it's very simple. How do you patch the environment? First of all, you create a baseline, number 1. Number 2.
Can you go please on the back slide if you don't mind?
Yes, yes.
And can you briefly again explain host baseline and VM baseline, please?
So do you understand baseline? What is a baseline, Alamgir?
So it's a baseline is just a set of updates that are that VMware releases every third week of the month, and it's just kind of patches and
And
these
they are
patches
sent to ESXi host. Excellent.
yeah
Very good.
in the EXI host, but it's recommended that we should deploy individual ESXi host, even though we can deploy on the cluster as well.
Excellent. Excellent. So Alamgir, when we create a baseline just for ESXi host, that baseline is known as host baseline. Okay. And when we create a baseline for just the VMs, so this VM needs to be updated. So for that, there are different patches. So there is, let's say, update 4 is for VM update. This is not a host update. So in that case, this will be a VM baseline. So this is known as a VM baseline, and the baseline that is created for the host, for ESXi host, that will be known as host baseline. So this is what is mentioned in this other slide. Host baseline is the baseline that is for the host, and VM baseline is the baseline that is created for VMs.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and VA baseline is for appliances. So just like VCSA or VDP or any other appliances. So remember that there is a baseline especially for the host, because host is more critical than VMs, because VMs are individual servers, whereas host has many VMs inside. So this is why we need to be more careful when updating the host. So here,
VA
yes.
is a, what is VA, sir?
VA is appliance. VA
Oh.
is VMware appliance, just like VCSA is a appliance.
Okay, thank you.
So this is just like VCSA. So if you're updating VCSA, this is an appliance. So when we create a baseline or a group of patches for VCSA, then we use VM baseline.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And now the second thing is that how do you, so what is the patching process? So what is the patching process? So before this, what was the patching process in WSUS? So in WSUS, patching process was that first of all, we create a WSUS server, and then we download all of the patches from Microsoft. Remember that it took like hours and hours to download all the patches in WSUS. So you connect to Microsoft website, and from there we download all of the patches from Microsoft, and all of the patches were downloaded on WSUS server. And then in WSUS server, we create groups of patches for let's say we have 10 server 2012 in our environment. So server 2012. 10 server 2012 in our environment. So these are 10. We have 10 server 2016 in our environment. So 2016. And then once these servers are grouped together, then we send patches to these servers. So this is a normal process in WSUS that you update the environment. So you download all the patches here from here, and then it took a long time for downloading, and then you update the environment and selecting that which patches needs to go to which type of operating system. Guys, exactly like that. First of all, in VUM, first of all, we need to install a VUM server. So once we have a VUM server, it is a licensed product. You need to download it. Once it is downloaded, then within VUM appliance, we will connect it to the VMware website. So it will connect to VMware website, and it will download all of the patches. So now all of the patches are available on VUM. So then the next part is create a baseline. So from these patches, we will select a baseline. So let's say for ESXi host, this is a baseline for for ESXi host, and this is a baseline for VMs. So these two patches needs to go onto the VMs, and these two patches needs to go onto the host. So this is known as host baseline. This is known as VM baseline. So once the baseline is created, so how do you create it? You just need to select the patches, right click and create a baseline. And then we attach that baseline to ESXi host. So this baseline will be attached to ESXi host. And once it is attached to a ESXi host, we will scan the host. Then scanning the host will let us know that how many hosts needs these patches. Now, for example, I have 3 ESXi hosts, and 3 of the ESXi hosts, this host already has these 2 patches. So if I go here, and so this ESXi host doesn't need these 2 patches because you just patched them in the last half an hour. So this host will not be updated because these has 2 patches. So these 2 hosts will be selected for patches. So so scan will find out that how many hosts requires these patches. So guys, one more time, from VMware, all the patches are downloaded to VUM server, number 1. Number 2, we create a baseline, number 2. So here, number 2, we create a baseline. Number 3, we attach the baseline to ESXi host. Number 4 is that we scan the ESXi host, that which ESXi host requires the baseline. And here, number 5, we stage the patches. Stages meaning we prepare it to be sent to ESXi host. So stage patches, this is not even a stage. It is just that we make sure that we know that on which ESXi host we are sending these patches. So the main step is this one, which is remediate patches. Remediate means now you're updating the ESXi host. So on this stage, which is, I would say this is number 5. Staging means just to make sure that ESXi hosts are ready and the group baseline is ready and they are scanned properly. Remediate means that you just need to remediate is just a button that you need to press. Remediate. Remediate means that now update all these ESXi hosts. So update ESXi host. So remediate means that. So remember that remediate doesn't happen before scan. So scan will prepare, make sure that which ESXi host needs the patches. Once we know that these hosts needs patches, then we press the remediate option and then it will update the ESXi environment. Fast, go ahead.
So my question is, everything has to be done manually, individually, or the tools will give us options to do it properly, like
So no, this is
scanning of the
actually,
host and stage patches. These are done manually.
no. So this can be done automatic. So there are two options. This is so most of the time we do it in this manner. First of all, we create a baseline, then we attach a baseline to a ESXi host, then we scan the host, and then we remediate. Now this can be scheduled automatically as well. We can automatically do this, but since, remember guys, think of ESXi host as a huge big cruise ship with lot of goods on it, just like a Titanic. So we cannot risk this update on ESXi host automatically. Though it can be done automatically, we can create this complete process and schedule this for 2 a.m. at night. So we are saying that 2 a.m. at night automatically this remediation happens on all ESXi hosts. But remember that these ESXi hosts are these ESXi hosts are not normal servers. These ESXi hosts are having very, very important servers inside them, maybe 20 servers or 40 servers. For that reason, we will make sure that we do it manually and they are done properly. So update whenever you need to do an update as a VMware admin or even WSUS, this will take a whole day for that one person to complete the patches, or maybe 2 or 3 days. So when you're doing an update in large organization, there is a special person who is dedicated just for updates. So this person has no other task. This person is not managing Active Directory, not doing the DHCP. This person is dedicated for just for WSUS. Why? Because this WSUS updating the environment or VUM updating the environment, that can break down your complete environment. Why? Let's say one wrong update. So let's say you have completed an update on this server and this server restarted. After restarting, this server is not coming back because one of the patch was corrupt and that patch corrupted the operating system. And for that reason, this ESXi host is completely down. So for that reason, there has to be one person vigilantly looking at this complete process and doing that manually. So in medium to large environment, whenever you're doing updates, on that day, you don't do anything else. So you're dedicated only for the updates.
So, sir, for remediate, that means now the updates are ready to install after scan.
Yes, after the scan, they are ready to be installed. All you need to do is to push the remediate option. That's it.
Okay, it's a kind of start button, right?
It's just a button, and hold on, I can show it to you right here. Actually, in my previous training in 5.5, we had that appliance freely available for evaluation. And I think I have a video on this for previous version. So I'll share that video as well. But now this appliance is paid. Otherwise, we would have done a practical on this. Maybe, guys, maybe you might have that in your VCP. Probably, maybe. Okay, so where am I going here? So
Isn't it
here,
a very hectic thing? Like we have to check each and every EXI machine, like how many hosts needs patches, how many hosts or VMware needs patches. So don't you think it's like a very daunting task?
you know, it is kind of, it is an important task. It is a very, very important task. The reason is, why is it important task? Because you're dealing with ESXi hosts with a lot of VMs. So the day when you're doing the updates, for sure, I used to do the updates as well long time back. That day is a very tense day because you are, first of all, do need to update the environment. So, and the console is something like this. The console is something like this. In that, first of all, you have on this side, you have the cluster, you have ESXi host. Here you have a scan, and here you have a baseline. So this is a baseline right here. So once you have a baseline, you attach a baseline to this ESXi host, which is this one, and you will scan. Once you scan here, it is showing us that one of the hosts is non-compliant. So what is the meaning of non-compliant? Non-compliant means that this ESXi host needs an update. So this screen is showing us all, first of all, here it is showing me the baseline. Here it's showing me that this baseline is attached to this ESXi host. And when I run the scan, it shows me that it is one host is non-compliant, which means that this host needs the update. And then all I need to do, once this is all done, then I need to push this button. This button is called Remediate. Once you push this button will go automatically and send all these updates to this ESXi host. And once it is done, here in the recent task, you can see that this vCenter is being updated, or this host is being updated. So it will keep on updating all that. This is the staging. The staging will show that if this all is good or not. So staging is that process. But once you press this Remediate button, guys, after that, you will start looking at your environment, and you will try to make sure that this comes out all right. Why? Because so most of the time these updates are harmless. You can update this environment. Most of the time your ESXi will come back, but it is a possibility that after in updating this ESXi host, this ESXi host can die. So if this ESXi host can go down, then you need to find out that how do you bring that up again. So either from the backup, and before that you need to back up these servers as well, because if this goes down, then you might need to bring it back from the backup, or you need to create a new ESXi host. In both cases, it will take time to bring this ESXi host, and you can imagine that if one ESXi host is not available as compared to other ESXi hosts, then your vCenter will run slow. If your vCenter will not run slow, your cluster is slow, then your whole environment is slow, which means that your end users will be feeling slowness in the environment, and there might be some disconnection as well. So that's a big issue with this. So going back to your question, Faz, yes, that day when you're updating any environment using WSUS or VUM or Citrix or any environment, that day is a tense day for that person who's doing the update.
Sir, I have a question here.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
So suppose if there are 100, you need to do 100 updates. Once you know, like maybe first 5 are successful. So after that, you know that maybe this update is going good, right? So that on that point, you can instead going one by one, you can go in a group, like all of them you can do in once.
Yes, it can be done. So going back to your question, let's say this is a baseline and I attach it to one ESXi host, and after that it came out good and there is no issues. Then you can, instead of just one ESXi host, there is another option for all. So this is all. You can attach it to all the ESXi hosts, and then you can let it go. But again, Alamgir, it will be your responsibility. So it will be my responsibility as a VMware admin. It will be your responsibility if anything happens. So you don't need to ask management, should I send it to all? Should I send it to one of them? It is your responsibility. At the end, let's say out of 4, 3 goes down. Then the management will only come back to you. They will run after you. They will blame you that because of you, it went down. So instead of doing, especially for VUM, I will never recommend that doing that on multiple ESXi hosts at the same time. Yes, you can do VM updates on multiple VMs at the same time, but ESXi host, I would say go slow on this and protect yourself. So if I am doing it, I will take time. I will let the management know, I'm doing the updates. It will take 8 hours. So I'm not risking it, and they will understand. And you can take your time and do it one by one.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so here in this picture, so it is a bit blurred as well. Here you can see on this side we have a data center under which we have two ESXi, actually four ESXi hosts, 1, 2, 3, 4. All the four ESXi hosts are here, and this is a baseline. Baseline is attached to all of them, and all of them, when you scanned it, it is saying all of them are non-compliant, which means that you're doing all of the for this baseline. Now within the baseline there might be only one patch, maybe there is a two or three patches. So here you can remediate. So that is that option, Alamgir, where you're saying can we do many, all of them together? So okay, so this is only one patch. So if you closely look at this here it's showing only one patch. So since maybe at that point whoever is doing this update knows that this patch is totally harmless and this patch needs to go, so he selected all of them instead of selecting one by one. So select all of the ESXi hosts, scan it. You found that all of the four ESXi hosts are non-compliant, meaning that on all ESXi hosts needs that update. You remediate it. As soon as it is remediated, here you can see that it is all completed. So it is just remediating that. Okay. So guys, for WSUS, this discussion is very, very important. Please remember this discussion for interview purposes. And the questions that you are asking me are exactly the question they might ask you in the interview. How do you do the updates? How careful you need to be with the updates? So can you do updates on multiple ESXi hosts at the same time? And your answer should be exactly what I answered. No, I have to be careful with ESXi host because ESXi host is a critical environment. Each ESXi host is carrying many VMs. So I would go one by one on if there are multiple patches. So here in this picture, we can see multiple patches here. Okay, so here, going back to our discussion here. So in the meantime, let me see. Okay, so actually first let's complete this. Okay, so this is VUM. The second thing that we need to discuss is Vsphere application. But before that, let me see that if my environment is working. So if our environment is working, guys, just make sure that you're logged into a vCenter. Let's see, because I shut down my vCenter, and most probably it will give me some challenges here to basically start this environment. So I'll try to connect, or the best way in this case is going back to Vmotion. So I'm gonna go back. So I just wanted to initiate restore on my ESXi1 so that I can go back to VCSA. So I did snapshot reverse on my Windows server, which is my storage server, which is my VCSA as well. So here I am going to go to ESXi host and go back to a snapshot. Guys, this snapshot feature is available within all the virtualization environment. It is available in the cloud as well. So snapshot, you can always take a snapshot. The good thing about VMware is that we can take a snapshot before any new change. So, I mean, this won't harm you. So especially when you're doing, so you cannot take a snapshot of ESXi host, but you can take a snapshot of a VM before you're updating it. So Faz
Sir?
asked a question. There is a question from Faz. I'll take your question, Dishan, in a moment.
Okay.
So
Okay.
before doing update, each ESXi host has to be empty its VMs. Yes. So yes. So this is why I'm starting this environment so that I can show you the maintenance mode. Maintenance mode is basically a state of ESXi host. So if your VCSA is working, anyone's VCSA is working at the moment.
Yes, sir. Mine
Mine is
working.
working, sir.
Yes, sir, mine.
Mine is
Okay, so but hold on. I need team viewer. So who can share a team viewer so that I can control the screen?
I have certain viewer. I'll show you.
Okay, okay. So Salim, I'll connect to your machine so that we can check the maintenance.
Yeah,
mode.
sure, sir. No problem.
Sir, I need to clarify one thing, sir. I have one confusion.
Yeah, yes. Go ahead, please.
Sir, right now I am logging vCenter appliance, right? Sir, why when we need to on VCSA from ESXi host? Because right now I didn't log. I mean, power on VCSA. I directly log in from from port and from directly to VCSA console, or you can say sir appliance directly log in. Even I didn't go from ESXi host number and then we have to on the VCSA and then we log into VCSA, right?
Okay. So your question is that what is
When
the
we
best
need
way
to
to log into VCSA?
Yeah, and when we need to power on VCSA from ESXi host, sir, when we need.
When do we need to power on VCSA?
Yeah, from ESXi
Huh?
host, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So from ESXi, okay, so for now, directly you're logging into, okay, just hold on. Let me log into the environment so it will be more understandable. What is the password, Salim?
Yeah, number 2, D for dog, 5
Yes,
1.
51.
Yeah, N for Nancy, Z for zebra.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
So a very question regarding uh, when we take a snapshot, sir. A very quick question.
Yes.
We take a snapshot like on 4 different occasions. Let's suppose number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Number 1 should be a basic configuration. Number 2, adding directly. Number 3, Vmotion. Number 4, TRS.
Fez, I cannot hear you.
so Faz is asking.
Leave it.
Fez, you need to be close to the, mic.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
My question is regarding snapshots. We take snapshots on multiple occasions, like stage 1, 2, 3, 4. For example,
Right.
into the active directory. Number 2, adding storage. Number 3 is like Vmotion. Number 4, DRS. Let's
Right.
suppose go back to the number 2 stage when we are. So is it possible from that second stage to number 4th stage of snapshots which we had taken earlier? Is my question clear?
No. So,
Let
Faz, your
me
voice is
let me
breaking
grab a
up. Yeah.
microphone first.
Okay. So I think your question is that let's say I have 4 snapshots, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you move into number 2, then what happens to the setting of number 1 and 3? Is that what your question is?
My question is during our different parts of exercises, we have taken snapshots at different occasions. First, we're adding
Okay,
active directory,
excellent.
then after going forward, we are adding storage. Number 3, Vmotion. Number 4, DRS. Let's suppose we want to go back to the initial stage, like the first occasion. Is it possible if we go back, revert to the first stage? Is it possible from that stage we go back to the Vmotion stage? which we had taken earlier on.
Exactly. Yes. So that's the main purpose of snapshots. Yes. You
So,
can go back to any stage. You can go forward. You can go back. As long as you have
okay.
snapshots, you can go to the initial stage. You can go to the final stage. So this is the main magic of snapshot.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. And $1 million question for you, Faz. Why were you not using mic before? It is like far away from you or what?
No, it's not mine. So I've just borrowed from someone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So going back to I think it was a question from Zishan, and Zishan's question was that we directly log into this environment. We directly log into VCSA, and so let me actually make it 50%. Okay, we can make it 100% for now. Okay, so we directly log into, Zishan, can you repeat your question? We directly log into this
Yes, sir.
environment. When
Yeah.
do we connect to VCSA from ESXi host?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Was it with?
Yes, sir. Because right now we are directly on the this console, this
On
VCSA
VCSA console,
appliance,
yes.
appliances. Sir, because we are also power on our VCSA from ESXi host. So when do we need to power on VCSA from ESXi host? The first step which we were doing, sir.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that we never have to do it. We never. So which means, if your question is about that, do we directly log into ESXi host and then power on VCSA? We don't do that because once VCSA starts working in an environment, it will just keep on working. And also remember that there is an auto start policy, auto run policy, which we configured in within the ESXi host for this machine. As soon as ESXi starts, it will automatically start VCSA. So going back to your question, almost 99% of the time we will be working in this console. We don't go back to ESXi host and then start the VCSA. This only happens in our training environment. In the real environment, VCSA will be working all the time. Okay. Okay, guys. So here we wanted to see everyone. We wanted to see what is a maintenance mode, guys. Maintenance mode is basically, so this is my ESXi host one. Here I can see there is red exclamation sign on this, and if I go to the alarms here, so it's saying that on ESXi one host connection and power state. So it's just saying at one point at this point actually. So for now the time is showing 11:46, but at 1:35 a.m. At 1:35 a.m. for this on this date, and you can also see the date here. Today is 1:14, and this alarm was for 1:12. So which means this is an old alarm, and this can be ignored. So I'm just gonna right click on this, and I'm gonna reset this to green. So this is how we can change this. And so, but there are still more alarms here. So these are all of the previous alarm. We can just select them all. So, okay. So select all of the alarm and going down. I think we can select them all and reset to green. Yes. Okay, so alarms are gone, but this is still here. So I'm just gonna go back to the server and go to summary. Guys, this is exactly the same situation. Yes, please go ahead.
So you are on the
There is no
alarm.
alarms on this.
Okay. Just for a basic knowledge kind of, what are the critical alarms that we just need to keep eye on?
In VMware environment, what are the critical alarms that we need to keep our eye on? So Alamgir, basically just like a Windows server. Just like a Windows server, as long as the server is working, it's good and fine. And exactly like that in the ESXi host, there can be numerous type of issues within ESXi host as well. So there might be, let's say, memory is not enough. There might be CPU is not enough. Maybe storage is ending up. Maybe the physical CPU is heating up. So all those things can be there. The most important thing is just keep an eye on the alarm. So keep an eye on this here, that why do you have this alarm on this? So the way to look at this is you can select the ESXi host, you can change this to alarm, or you can also find that information right in the summary screen. So to answer your question, there is, I cannot think of anything that is more critical. The critical will be anything that comes onto ESXi host, and we need to look into this, and we need to see that if this can be fixed. So that will be, I think, the right answer for this. Okay, so here, this should go because there are no alarms anymore. And so let me just try to refresh this, and this will go. So once this is gone, so this is still not gone. I think this is not refreshing it. There are no alarms. So as long as there are no alarms, I don't see any alarms. It's fine. The environment is good, and this will later will be removed. And both servers are up too. Okay. So guys, maintenance mode. What is a maintenance mode? Maintenance mode is, everyone, maintenance mode. Everyone, please type yes in the chat window if you're present, because this is a very, very important part of the discussion. Please type yes in the chat window, everyone.
So, sir, this alarm will stay because looks like that ESI host one is not on. Once it's on, it should go away.
It seems like it, and I was suspecting that, but here I can see ESXi host is on. It is connected. So this is, and
No,
here,
no, sir. I mean in the console.
in the console,
Yeah.
but here I can make changes, which means that this ESXi host is connected. Now, if this ESXi host is not connected, then you won't be able to select anything in this. Remember? Right? So if there is any other ESXi, these, but you are 100% right. There is some suspicion saying, because this is blur, this is a bit grayed out, and it's also kind of italic names. So this seems like that it's thinking that it's not on, but basically it is on. Probably, I think this is just a glitch. It will go away. But since we can do everything on this ESXi host, so for that reason, we don't need to worry about that. As long as I can see the summary, I can see the real statistics of CPU, memory, and storage, it means that it's working fine. It is just there. It will go away on its own. Okay. So guys, first of all, let's see what is maintenance mode. Now, maintenance mode is this. First of all, I need to see, right click on your ESXi host, and right here, we can see this is known as maintenance mode. Maintenance mode, we can enter a ESXi host into maintenance mode. I can exit an ESXi host from maintenance mode. But remember, when you enter a ESXi host into maintenance mode, what it does, a part of maintenance mode, it will try to move all the VMs that are in here automatically to ESXi2. So for example, if I look at the VM, select ESXi host, and I'm looking at the VM here, within the VMs, I can see that there are many VMs sitting on this. So I'll try to. So here at the moment, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 VMs. And if I now put this ESXi host in maintenance mode, it will try to move all the VMs, actually all the running VMs, not the shutdown VMs, but the running VM to ESXi2. And if I do this now on ESXi1, it will be disastrous for this environment, because our environment is really weak in terms of resources, because moving VCSA from one ESXi host to another will require a lot of energy on this, and this might hang as well. So I'm not going to put this into maintenance mode, but I'm going to put the second server on maintenance mode. So going on to the second server, first of all, I need to see how many VMs are there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start one of the VM. So this VM is inaccessible. But so what I can do, I can create a new VM and make sure that VM has Vmotion. Which means that VM is sitting on a shared storage, that VM is sitting on that VNet. So I need to make sure all of that, and then maintenance mode will be able to move that VM. So let's say if I can create one more VM. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to basically create a VM. And guys, on the same screen here, we can see we can clone an existing VM. So earlier, Abdullah was asking a question, how do you copy a VM? So in order to copy a VM, these are the options that we can use. So we can clone an existing VM. And once that VM is cloned, clone meaning that you're creating a copy of that VM. So it will exactly create a same copy of that VM, and then you can move that VM anywhere else. You can move it to a ESXi 10 or 12 or anywhere, or you can also download and take it out of the environment and take it home and install that in your own environment as well. But this is an option called clone existing VM. You can also create a template of this VM, and template is basically, again, a copy of that VM. From the template, we can create more VMs. So clone means that it will just create a copy of the VM. Let's say if I clone a VM, it's just a very simple option. And here I need more space. So for that, I'll just make the screen bigger. Okay, so here I'm cloning a VM, and cloning, this option guides you through to creating a copy of the existing VM. Clone VM to a template. This option guides you through creating a copy of the existing VM and making it a template. A template is a golden image to virtual machines that allow you to easily create ready for use virtual machines. Here, clone a template to a template and convert template to a VM. So basically, first of all, clone a VM is a copying of a VM. So for now, I'm not, okay, so let's copy a VM. I mean, it won't take much time. So I'm copying this VM, and where do you want to copy that? Since Salim's environment is huge, it is all over the world. So I'm going to create that in Canada. So creating that in Canada, select a valid virtual machine. Okay, so it's saying select, okay, so we haven't selected a virtual machine. So for that, I'm going to select firewall server 1. So let's clone a copy of this. And so it's saying what will be the name of this machine? Firewall server 2. And it will go to next. And in this case, it is saying that where do you want to create this clone? What is the destination of this clone? So this will be sitting on ESXi 1. And here it's saying that there is warning on this. The warning is the network interface or VM network, which is virtual network. So it's saying that the clone, the network where the clone is sitting is different from the network where you're sending it. So it's just a warning. Warning is fine. It's not a critical error. So I'm just gonna create a clone. So here it's saying, where do you want to create it? So in this case, we can create it on data store 1, and it is compatible. And do you want to customize the VM? So for example, customize the operating system, customize the virtual machine. Customizing the VM means that you want to add more RAM to this? Do you want to add more CPUs to this? So all those things, or you can customize the CPU as well. So since you are copying the clone, you are copying the VM, and here you can make any changes to this. So since we selected this, if we need exactly the same VM, we just create it and finish. So now in the recent task, we should be able to see that it is creating a clone on, so it's creating a clone, and the clone is created since basically there was no operating system, the clone was created. Now the second option is, so we wanted to start one of the servers first. Actually not migrate, we are starting, and we want to basically put them in maintenance mode. So power on server 1 and power on server 2. So both of the servers are started. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to, so both of these servers are sitting on ESXi2. Let me make sure. So ESXi2 is here, VM is here, and no, these are not on. Why they are not on ESXi2? If I go to ESXi1, okay, still loading, and Salim, do your shared storage is working or not working?
I used to working, but today I don't know, sir. When I turn on the server,
Okay.
after that was is showing
Okay.
in.
Okay. No problem. No problem. We need shared storage. Alamgir, your shared storage is working?
Mine is
Yes,
working.
it is working.
Okay, so can you share your team viewer? So Salim, I'll disconnect from here because we
Okay.
just need to quickly check that this option. Uh, so Alamgir, can you share team viewer or maybe whatever tool you have to?
Whatever you like, sir. I can share.
Team viewer is fine. Team viewer. Team viewer.
Okay, sir. It's 1728949.
Okay, just a second. 1728
1728949.
949253.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
6GE K62.
Okay, 6GE
K62.
K62.
Yes, sir.
Enter.
Sir,
Yes, please
yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
I've tried when I put ESXi2 on maintenance mode, so all the VMs is moving. 30% done, and still 90% is under process.
Oh yes, maintenance mode will automatically move the VM.
Yeah,
Excellent,
yeah,
very good.
yes, sir.
So maintenance mode, guys, always remember the main function of a maintenance mode is Alamgir, which machine is Vmotion enabled from this? So start the VM. Power on recommendation, very good. So this is known as VM placement. It is doing a VM placement. And so you selected it. I think your mic is not working because of TeamViewer.
I just put
Okay,
mute.
okay, you just muted it. Okay. So what did you do? So we powered on this VM. Okay, so this VM is sitting where? Let's click on this VM. And guys, everyone, this is very important for you to navigate, to know how to navigate in this VCSA. I can understand that there are many advanced services. So guys, let's understand the main purpose of this training. Okay. So everyone, the thing is that with this one training, you cannot become an expert of VMware. So number one is that. Number two is that the main purpose of this VMware training or any training, the first time when you take any training or any technical training, the main goal is that you will gain at least 40 to 50% of the knowledge. But the reason why we took this VMware training, because we want to have that one star on our shoulder saying that we know VMware, we are VMware certified. So wherever VMware is required, you will be preferred as compared to the people who are not VMware aware, who are not VMware certified. Okay, so during this training, we went through many stages. We went back and we learned and we reviewed many things here. So guys, the most important thing is in VMware administration is that you need to become an expert of this console. So meaning that if somebody asks you that where is this VM sitting, you need to know that where is the VM sitting. So for that reason, you need to have a look at the VM and you need to know that which ESXi host this is sitting. Now by just looking at this VM right here on this screen, Alamgir, are you doing something on this? Or I'm doing something on this? Alamgir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. There you go. You can take the
Okay.
control.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So everyone, first of all, you need to be an expert of this console and then VMware. So if let's say in a real environment, if this cluster is if it's sitting in front of you and you're sitting in front of the cluster, and so there you need to have that confident face that you know this what this environment is. Meaning this is called a data center. This data center is sitting in this folder. This folder is sitting in this VCSA, and within the data center you have a cluster, and within the cluster you have 3 ESXi hosts, and in these 3 ESXi hosts it has 1 2 3 4 5 VMs on this. Now let's say if you need to know that this VM is sitting in which ESXi host, first of all this VM is sitting in this cluster, but you still need to know, your manager is saying no, which ESXi host is it sitting. So you can select the VM, you can go to the summary screen, and here it shows you where the VM is sitting. The VM is sitting on ESXi host 1. Where is the second VM is sitting? The second VM is sitting on ESXi host 1. Where is the third VM sitting? It is sitting on ESXi host 1. So all of them are sitting on ESXi host 1. So meaning the other 2 ESXi host has nothing on them. So which means, or probably there are other VMs, but let's see. So I'm going to select the ESXi host and go to VMs. And within VMs, it shows nothing. So these ESXi hosts are empty. So first of all, I'm going to move one of the ESXi hosts to ESXi2 so that we can see the maintenance mode. So on this one, I'm just going to move the compute resources, which means that I'm doing a Vmotion. We also need to know this is known as storage Vmotion. So storage Vmotion can be done, but we need to understand those things that we already discussed, that storage Vmotion takes up all your resources. Make sure that we don't do storage Vmotion very often. So for that reason, storage Vmotion is not done. Storage Vmotion is done after a lot of planning and understanding the environment. Okay, so for now, I'm just doing a Vmotion because I need to move this to ESXi2 so that I can put it in the maintenance mode. And on this, I'll select here. Okay, so all good. For Vmotion, meaning Alamgir, you did a good job, which means that your Vmotion is working fine. Guys, if Vmotion is working fine, basically that means your environment is running in a good, your environment is running in a good condition, meaning that Vmotion is working, meaning your shared storage is there, your networking is there, within the vkernel port, your Vmotion is enabled and everything is fine. So for now, it is moved on to this. Okay, since it is moved on to this and it is part of a cluster, I'm going to put that on maintenance mode. Now, maintenance mode will automatically move this VM to the other ESXi host, and then will place it itself in the maintenance mode. So enter into maintenance mode. And as soon as you enter this into the maintenance mode, it will show you the screen. And it's giving you a warning. It is showing you that a host in the maintenance mode does not perform any activities on the virtual machines, including virtual machine provisioning. Host configuration is still enabled. The enter maintenance mode task does not complete until the above state is completed. You might need to either power off or migrate the virtual machines from the host manually. You can cancel maintenance mode task at any point in time. So in here, it's saying that I need to put that into maintenance mode, and it is giving us a warning. Why, guys? Because the thing is that when you place a server into a maintenance mode, what it needs to do is it will try to move the VMs outside this ESXi host. So here it is, here it's waiting and initializing. So let me just bring this up. So maintenance mode is happening, initializing, power on. Is this one? Okay, it's this one. So there is another one as well. So this is entering maintenance mode, and it is giving us the progress. And entering maintenance mode, meaning it is emptying the ESXi host. So interview question is, what is a maintenance mode? What do you know about maintenance mode? guys, remember, maintenance mode is a state of ESXi host in which it will move out all the VMs to other ESXi host and then place the server in maintenance mode. Now, the other reason why we put that server into maintenance mode, if you need to take it out of the cluster, if you ever need to take a ESXi host out of the cluster, first you will put the cluster into, you will place the ESXi host into maintenance mode, then you can take it out of the cluster. You cannot take a ESXi host out of the cluster if it is not in the maintenance mode. This is one reason why we put a cluster, why we place a ESXi host in a maintenance mode. So the first reason is that if you need to take out this ESXi host out of the cluster. And second reason is VUM. So if you ever need to update this ESXi host and the ESXi host need to be restarted, again, VUM will automatically place the ESXi host into maintenance mode, which will move out all the VMs to other ESXi host, and then it will carry out the change. Okay, so guys, for maintenance mode, remember, for maintenance mode, you must have Vmotion enabled. You must have shared storage. You must have everything that we learned about Vmotion, DRS as well. DRS is not an absolute requirement of maintenance mode, but Vmotion is, because Vmotion is the one that will take more time to move a running VM to another ESXi host. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect from here. Alamgir, thank you for your machine.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, so
Sir,
yes.
so my this migration is stuck on 32, and because it's showing cluster insufficient resource to satisfy vSphere HA failure.
Yes, exactly. Yes, this will happen with maintenance mode. Why? Because, and this might happen, Alamgir, with you as well. Guys, with maintenance mode, we need to remember this. So look at this here on the screen. Remember that in maintenance mode, everyone, in the maintenance mode, what happens is that you're moving the VMs to other ESXi host, right? So you need to make sure that other ESXi host has enough resources. So it's exactly the case of, again, I'm going to go back to my favorite example of 3 cars, right? So 2 cars and 3 cars here. So maintenance mode meaning, so there are 5 people sitting in here, there is 3 people sitting in here, and there are 4 people sitting in here. Let's say now you want to remove this car, or in other words, we are putting the car into maintenance mode. So where these 4 people will go? So these 4 people, definitely you need to accommodate them in these servers. So total, so there can be only 5 people in this car sit. So there are 5, it's a 5-seater car. You cannot move any VMs to this car. So this ESXi host is out of option. So the only ESXi host where the VMs can move is this one. So out of 4, 2 will be here. So what happens to the rest of the 2? So the rest of the 2, this is where you are getting that error message saying that the cluster doesn't have enough resources to move the other 2 VMs. So this is where it is giving you that message. So guys, whenever we place, go ahead, Alamgir.
Yes, sorry for that, but I think it's. I have a question right here. That
Yeah, go ahead.
you have a HA available if it's enabled. So
right,
will that work?
If HA is enabled, then will that work with the maintenance mode or without maintenance mode?
With the maintenance mode.
So let's say if you place this ESXi host, let's say on a maintenance mode, if let's say this is a ESXi host and you this is already in a maintenance mode, so maintenance mode means that this ESXi host is totally down. It is Vmotion is not working, DRS is not working, HA is not working. This ESXi host is totally out of picture unless you remove the maintenance mode. Okay, so maintenance mode exactly means when we do maintenance on the road. Remember, you have a road and you're doing construction, and sometimes they put that sign here, maintenance is happening, be careful. So this area is completely stopped. So the car will move here and then go from here. So exactly the case, as long as this maintenance, this boundary is here, you cannot use this road unless once this is removed, then so exactly the case of maintenance mode is that as soon as you place the server in maintenance mode, first of all, it will try to move all the VMs here. Now, if it is not able to move VMs here, it will not place the server in maintenance mode. So it won't take that maintenance mode. It will give an error message. The server will still be alive. Now, if it is in maintenance mode, then HA won't work. So HA will not work. FT will not, so none of the technology will work on this. Okay. So here, guys, why do we get that error message? So we got that error message that there are not enough resources. Yes, so there is not enough resources. So guys, this raises a next question. The next question is, what is the best practice about maintenance mode? So what should be the best practice about maintenance mode? Guys, the best practice about a maintenance mode, always remember that you have at least 20% of resources free in all your cluster. So let's say I have ESXi host 1, ESXi host 2, ESXi host 3, and they're all part of a cluster. And basically the cluster is the one now is the owner of all the CPUs. So let's say this had 2 CPUs. So the total number of CPU cluster has is 6 CPUs. And total number of RAM is equal to the total number of RAM of these ESXi hosts. Now, we always make sure that cluster will have 20% free resources. So 20% of the cluster is always free. So for that reason, and why 20% of the cluster is free? Ideally, it should be 30 to 40% free, but 20% is free so that if any ESXi host needs to go into a maintenance mode, this 20% free space will be used to accommodate other loads. Okay, I mean, this is exactly the case of 3 cards. So if you're thinking that in this long journey, there might be a chance that one of the car will go down. So always make sure that one seat is always available. So one seat is vacant, so that, or there should be seats equal to 1 car. So if there are 4 people, always remember that there are 2 seats available in these cars, so that if this goes down, the people can be accommodated in 2 cars. So this is exactly the same thing. Okay, guys, with this, we need to understand another very, very important topic that is known as Vsphere replication. Actually, Vsphere replication is not that important. I'll come back to that. Most important topic is first of all, let's go to that most important topic, and that is VDP. Okay, so understanding VDP, guys. VDP is vSphere data protection. First of all, VDP is equal to Windows backup. So remember what we know about Windows backup. Windows backup is a software that can back up Windows servers. Remember, and anybody remembers anything about Windows backup? That was Windows backup is Windows backup automatically available on the servers, or do you have to do something?
Sir, we have to schedule the backup.
Yes, we have to schedule a backup, and before schedule a backup. So I'm going to repeat my question. My question is that is Windows backup automatically available in all Windows server, or do we have to do something?
It's automatic.
I think it's automatically available.
We actually
Yes,
have to
so
do
it
a
was
lot.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, don't we have to like actually
Microsoft
install the
automatically
updates and
installs
actually
it.
make sure on a virtual PC in the site that all the updates are good and then actually push them out?
Yes. Okay. So Ashish, my question is a little bit different. That Windows backup, is it available automatically on all the servers, or do we have to do something? It was a trick question. Your answers are correct, that it is automatically available. But remember, Windows backup was a feature that is not available by default. You need to add that feature in the beginning. So if you need Windows,
WCS.
Oh,
remember
okay.
that you need to
Yeah.
add that feature.
Yes. Yes.
WCS.
You're right.
And once the feature
If we
is
will, yeah.
added, Windows backup feature is added, then you can schedule a backup and then the servers will be backed up, right? So excellent. Guys, Windows backup is that software with which we can back up the complete environment, and VDP is that software with which we can back up the complete ESXi environment. Now, what can be backed up with VDP? So VDP, first of all, it is short for vSphere data protection. Number one, it is not a free software. It is not a free software. It's a licensed software. You need to have a license for this as well. So many of the companies, they don't go for VCP, VDP. They go for other products like VIM, like Veeam Backup. Veeam Backup is very famous company for providing backup. Veeam is a huge big company that not only provides backup, basically it provides migration tools. It provides a lot of other tools, monitoring tools as well. So Veeam is that big company. So some companies won't go for this, but most recently with the version 6.5 and above, 6.5, 6.7, and 7, companies are more relying on vSphere data protection, because vSphere data protection has evolved from the beginning. Now it has all the enterprise feature. In the beginning, it has enterprise features as well, but in version 5 or 5.5, ESXi version 5, 5.5, and version 6, it was not considered as a mature enterprise level backup. But now VDP is considered as an enterprise level backup, and companies are using it. So they avoid going to the third party, going to these companies. So instead they use this VMware's own product. Sometimes it is cheaper than using a third party company. In some cases, even using third party software for the backup is better than using VDP. Now, in which cases VDP is more expensive than Veeam? Guys, if you have a small environment, meaning let's say 10 ESXi host, as compared to a large environment that has 40 ESXi host or 50 ESXi host. So 50 ESXi host, when you need to back up, definitely each server will require a separate license. So you need licenses for all these ESXi hosts. So if it is a smaller environment, sometimes it is better to choose the native tool. Native meaning VMware's own backup, which is VDP. So for a smaller environment, VDP might be a better choice because they will give you a discount because you already bought their VCSA. So for VDP, you must have VCSA as well. You also bought their ESXi. Remember that before having a backup, you need to have an environment. You bought VCSA license, you bought ESXi host license. Probably you might have bought the VUM license as well. So they will give you a discount on VDP as well. So this VDP for a smaller environment, it might be a good choice, but for a large environment, VDP might be expensive. So in that, companies might go for Veeam backup. Why would they go for Veeam backup? Because those large companies already have other products from Veeam. So from the Veeam backup, they might already have their replication, their migration tools, their monitoring tools, and they have other tools as well. So Veeam will give them backup, a huge discount on Veeam backup. This is why companies would go for Veeam rather than VDP. In comparison, both are enterprise level backup. Both will provide enterprise level backing up tools.
Sir,
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
So when it comes to software license management, right? So
Right.
the VM licenses comes under the same like we do Windows or company, licensing management on different tools. So we will do the same. Can we use the same tool for the VMware to update the licensing?
Yes. So what happens is, so the question is about when it comes to licensing, can we use the same companies to buy the license? Is that your question?
Buy the license or manage the license?
Manage the license, yes. So guys, license management is different in different companies. License management in different companies. So license management is exactly like how we manage licenses in our local PC. So for example, I'm the owner of one laptop. I need to make sure that I have a license for Windows in this. So as an individual, I will make sure that I have a license of my OS. I also have a license for my antivirus, because if antivirus fails, then your machine is not protected. So thinking of this one person managing a laptop and licenses, this is exactly how company manage their licenses. So a small company would manage their licenses themselves. So a small company, meaning a small company with, let's say, 10 servers, they would manage their own licenses. They will directly buy licenses from the vendor. So small company would buy license directly from Microsoft. They will directly buy license from VMware. They will directly buy license from these vendors directly and manage it. Medium to large size organization have companies to, so medium to large size organization, they have basically special companies that manage license for them. So for example, in Canada, there is a huge big organization called known as Soft Choice. Soft Choice or companies like Soft Choice, what they do mainly license management. So large companies like Bell, Rogers, Dell, they all buy licenses from Soft Choice, and Soft Choice buy licenses from the vendors. So they have licenses from Microsoft, they have licenses from VMware, they have licenses from Citrix, they have licenses from Veeam. This company will manage all of the licenses, because licenses are a huge main cost for many organizations. So instead of managing their licenses themselves, large companies like Bell and Dell and Rogers, these all companies would contact Soft Choice. Soft Choice will buy license for them, and they manage licenses. So now going back to your question, Wasim, that when it comes to license buying, like so Bell needs to buy 100 Microsoft licenses, Server 26 licenses. Maybe they need to buy 5 vCenter licenses, and they need to buy 20 ESXi host licenses. So they will send a request to Soft Choice. Soft Choice will give them a quotation, and based on their quotation, they will buy licenses. But it doesn't mean that Bell cannot go directly to these companies. It's just that going through these license management organization is better than just going directly and manage hundreds and hundreds of licenses within the company.
Yeah, it's the optimization, sir, right? That's why.
It is
And saving the
optimization,
money.
exactly.
Yes, yeah, I
And
agree.
yes,
Yeah.
so it is a saving of money as well, because Soft Choice has a huge big, I mean, they will buy huge bulk of licenses. They will buy huge bulk of licenses, and when they buy these licenses, they will give discount to Bell as well. So since they buy in bulk licenses, they have a choice of giving them more discount than the vendor. Okay, guys, VDP is a very simple application. In VDP, all you need to do is to, first of all, download the appliance. And I will try my best to have this VUM and both of them available from somewhere. I just need to have someone provide me an evaluation version. Before, I used to work for one organization. They had evaluation versions. So recently, I haven't worked on this product. But if I have, I'll create a video for this. So guys, VDP is a software that backups this environment. So it can backup ESXi host, and it can backup VCSA. So it can backup VCSA. It can backup the VMs as well. It can backup basically the VMware tools in the VMs. But the OS of the VM is not backed up. So OS of the VM, meaning, let's say this is server 2016, this one is server 2012, and this one is a Linux machine. So VDP will not back that up. You need a separate agent for this. It can back up, but these backing up these servers will be done from Windows backup. So companies will use Windows backup or any other software to back up the VMs, but to back up ESXi host and VCSA and appliances and appliances, these all will be backed up by VDP. So all you need to do, first of all, you need to have a VDP appliance installed. Once the VDP appliance is installed, it will attach to a storage. So this is a huge big data store. And within the data store, it will start backing up everything. So if you're backing up VMs as well, VMs can be backed up, but this is an extra cost. Most of the time, these VMs are backed up by Windows backup, and only the ESXi host will be backed up. But in case if you're backing up all of it, it will be backed up in the data store. So this ESXi host will be backed up here, the VMs will be backed up here, and you can anytime you can restore the VMs. Now, within vSphere data protection, so again, so if you are taking notes, guys, please take it, write it down a few times. VDP stands for vSphere data protection. So why am I saying you need to write that down? Because you need to, basically, this is the first time you're hearing this word. And if you write it down a few times, especially VUM and VDP, both of them, just keep writing it down. Both of them, major points about this. It is better to understand right now here in this lecture, because this will go into your long-term memory. So you are listening, number one, you are writing. So listening, writing, and plus asking questions. So discussion, which is discussion. So the last point we won't be able to do, which is a practical. Practical we're not able to do on this, but please make sure make use of all these other three learning abilities. So please write it down. vSphere data protection, it stands for, VDP stands for vSphere data protection. It is known as VDP in an environment. So it is known as VDP, number one. Number two, the main function is backup and recovery solution for vSphere environment. It provides image level backup of virtual machines backup directly stored on the defined storage. So which is defined storage is basically this storage. So where is this storage coming from? This storage might be coming from a iSCSI. And definitely it is coming from a iSCSI, because you cannot use a local store of ESXi host. This is part of iSCSI, or it might be part of the SAN as well. So the data all the data will be stored in here. Number three, guest OS administrators to restore individual files and folders. So you can basically restore VMs, and inside the VM you can also restore the files and folders as well. Provide agentless backup. You don't need to install any agent on the VMs, which means that you have ESXi host. Within ESXi host, I have these VMs. So if I'm taking backup, previously with VDP, previously with older version, you need to install agents in them. But now, so this is a new information for me as well. With version 6.7 and 7, it's completely an agentless, meaning now there are more features added. So company would avoid going to third-party backup. They would like to use VDP backup. So these two options are added. Which one? The first one is this: you can restore individual files and folders. Meaning, let's say if you back up this VM, so this complete VM is backed up, and you just need to restore one file from this complete VM. Before, we used to completely restore this VM. So restore this VM as another VM, and then restore the file. But now you have the ability to restore individual file, meaning that you can go into VDP, you can go down to that file within VDP, and you can just restore one file. So this is another very important feature for VDP. Interview question is that in VDP, can you restore a VM or individual file? Yes, you can restore a VM, complete VM. You can also restore individual file. Next question, is it? Yes, please go ahead.
Sorry. Sir, agentless means the backup is in the cloud?
No. Agentless means that there won't be any agent installed on the on the VM. Now, what is the meaning of agentless? So agentless, sometimes So let's think of WSUS. WSUS. So again, one more time, I'm giving that example. So WSUS, guys, how WSUS works is that WSUS is an agent-based technology. It's not an agent-less technology. Now, what is an agent-based technology? So WSUS, we all know it will download all the patches to WSUS, right? And from here, it needs to update a server. So it needs to update server 2012. It also need to update server 2016. Now it can only update server 2016 if there is a update agent installed. So on all these server, there is an agent installed on this. This agent is basically connected to WSUS. So if this agent, which is a small software that is installed on the server, if this is not working, then this machine cannot receive updates. And same like for all of us. So all of us sitting at home, everyone. So all of us are using Windows 10, right? Everyone is using Windows 10. Anyone is using Windows 8? No. So everyone is using Windows 10. So on all of our machines, on all of our laptops, there is an agent installed for automatic updates. This agent automatically goes directly to Microsoft website and download all the patches. So when an application works in this manner, where the application needs an agent, this is known as agent-based application. So this is known as agent-based application. So which means that that application depends on the agent working on this. So for example, on my Windows machine, if I stop this agent, then my machine will not be able to download any patches. So guys, exactly like that, VDP is a technology in which there is no agent required. VDP will back up the server without the agent. So for example, this is my ESXi host, and these are my VMs inside. Once I have VDP set up, VDP before in version 5 and previous version, it needs to have a agent inside each of the client in order to take the backup. But now it is agent-less technology. There is no software required on this. VDP will directly go and take the backup and then store the backup in the storage. So this is what agent-less means.
So, sir, what happened if the VMs are in the cloud, and how we get the backup?
So VMs in the cloud is different type of VMs. VMs in the cloud meaning Azure cloud, right? So in Azure cloud, it has its own backup. So VDP is not taking backup of the cloud, but VDP is taking backup of your complete VCSA environment. So whatever you have in VCSA, it can take backup of ESXi host, all the VMs, all the appliances. So VDP cannot take backup in cloud.
So, sir, another question arising in my mind.
Yes.
That is, it means on VMware, whatever virtual machines we are creating or we are using, if we have to migrate them into the cloud, it's supposed to go either the Azure, AWS, or Google or IBM. Am I right?
Oh, yes, yes. So yes. So which cloud they can go to? Is there a cloud of VMware where they can go to? No. So at the moment, VMware doesn't, it has its own cloud, but it's not for public. They have their cloud for their private use. So maybe in future, VMware might have their own cloud open for public as well. But at the moment, if these VM needs to go into a cloud, they need to either go into AWS, Azure, or GCP.
Sir, thank you very much, because I did not know that.
Okay. Okay, excellent, excellent. Good questions. So guys, here, one more time, VDP is a software that can take the backup. Number 2, backup and recovery solution for vSphere environment. Interview question, what is the backup solution from VMware? It is known as VDP. What is it known as? VDP. So please write that in the chat window. By the way, where is Naveed today?
Sir, I think he was busy at the work.
Okay, he was busy at work. Okay, we are only missing Naveed today, right? Oh, we are missing Usher too. Okay. Okay, so VDP backup and recovery solution for this and provide, so it can provide image level backup, which means that it can provide VM backups. We can download, we can restore individual file. It's an agentless backup. You don't need an agent on this. Guys, with agent, one more example, remember that agent means that you need a software on a VM that will connect to that application. If that agent is not running, then that application cannot do anything on that. So, but VDP has no dependency for that. So it's an agentless backup, provides application aware protection for business critical Microsoft application like Exchange and SQL. So VDP can also take backups of the databases, SharePoint and Exchange as well. But most of the time companies won't use VDP for these backups. They will use Microsoft backup or the Windows backup or any other enterprise level backup for these applications. And then VDP is integrated with vCenter. So in order to have VDP, you must have vCenter. Without vCenter, VDP cannot work. Without vCenter, VUM cannot work. Without vCenter, DRS cannot work. Without vCenter, HA and FT cannot work. So guys, always remember all these important services are attached to VCSA. VCSA, all these service. So first your company needs to buy a VCSA license. Actually, before your company needs to buy ESXi host license, which is anywhere from 2,500 to more. And then they need to buy VCSA license. And then, so with VCSA, they will get DRS for free. So it's not free, it's a 5,000 license of VCSA. They will get HA, they will get FT, but if they need VUM, they need to buy a separate license. So for VUM, they need to buy a separate license. For VDP, they need to buy a separate license. So yes, this makes VMware environment a bit more expensive than Hyper-V environment. Guys, remember that VMware's biggest competitor is Hyper-V. Hyper-V server, remember that in Windows you installed Hyper-V, and in Hyper-V you can also create VMs, right? In Hyper-V, we can also create VMs. And in ESXi host, we can also create VMs. So both of them are competitors. So Hyper-V is cheaper solution as compared to VMware's complete solution. But guys, Hyper-V is not as stable as VMware. So VMware is a very, very stable technology. Companies where VMware is running, it is running in a stable form, which means that you don't get to, it's so stable that these ESXi hosts, they are so much protected that if even ESXi host goes down, nothing happens to your environment, because all of the VMs will move into another ESXi host, or you can also create in seconds, you can create a new ESXi host. So, but Microsoft is trying to catch up with their speed and technology, but they're still Hyper-V and SCVM is not at that level. So this is why companies that are looking that invest, they happily invest on ESXi host and VCSA and DRS and everything. Okay. So guys, components of vSphere, so data protection, number one is vCenter. You must have a vCenter, you must have vSphere web client. Then you will download this appliance from VMware website. Once you download the appliance, then you can add app agents to the VMs. So this app agents is only required. So first of all, for normal backup, agent is not required, but this is required just for Exchange server. So if you are backing up Exchange server with VDP, you're backing up SQL database with VDP, you're backing up SharePoint and all these applications with VDP, then you need an agent. But backing up directly VMs on ESXi host is you don't need any agent. VDP can directly back up. Okay. Now, what is vSphere Proxy? Proxy is basically a software where it's used in large environments. So, which means that let's say you have two sites. You have site number one, you have one data center in Toronto area. You have another data center. So you have one data center in Toronto area. You have another data center in London, or you may be another data center in maybe New York. So in here, for example, VDP is sitting here to back up your VDP sitting here to back up your ESXi environment. So these are your ESXi, and it's backing up this environment. But if you need to have this VDP also back up London data center as well, where you have 2 ESXi hosts, then we need to deploy Vsphere protection proxy. So this proxy is basically, so this proxy software application connects to VDP here, and it will back up these ESXi hosts and send that backup back to this VDP. So proxy is only used in other sites where you need to connect your VDP to a proxy. So what is the advantage of this? Why can't we have another VDP in here? So yes, you can have another VDP, but then you need to buy 2 licenses. With proxy, you can work with 1 license. So this is 1 license, and this 1 license, you can back up both of the sites. So both of the sites, setting up a proxy here, this will send the backup here. The backup will be, these systems will be backed up, and the backup will be stored in here. Now, the only problem with this this approach is that this might be a slow backup, because so this is your Toronto site, this is your London site, and since you're using proxy, so this bandwidth can be a bottleneck, right? Because you're backing up another site. So this proxy is only good for where you have, yes, it's a large environment, you have multiple sites to back up, but proxy is only good for fewer ESXi hosts. Let's say if this site, let's say your company has another site, which is a New York site, and New York site has 20 ESXi hosts to back up. So guys, in this case, you will not use proxy. In this case, we will use a complete VDP license, because there are so many backups to be done. You cannot just send those backups over the bandwidth. First of all, it is a Toronto data, network and the New York network. It will be very, very expensive. It will be slow. So instead, your company can spend some money on buying a new VDP license. So they can buy a VDP license. They can back up everything in this. So guys, here we know the difference between a proxy and a complete license. So proxy is only used for backing up fewer ESXi hosts and the close by site, whereas VDP complete, you need another VDP for another city or maybe with a lot of ESXi hosts to be backed up. So guys, here one more time.
Sir, a very
Yes.
quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
All these things could not be done by a single VCP professional. Like it has to be like uphill task, multi-level VCP architect or VCP data center analyst or something like that. Like it's a huge. I think it's a
No, it's not huge. Come on, Faz. It's not. Nothing is huge. So look at this here. VMware admin that has VCP certification, that person can manage this complete environment. That person can manage this complete environment. And so don't think it's a huge environment. Even so, if you are able to manage 4 ESXi host Faz, if you're able to manage 4 ESXi hosts, you can easily manage 400 ESXi hosts. And 400 ESXi hosts, yes, for managing, let's say 4 or 40 ESXi hosts, they have only 1 VCP admin. But for managing 400 ESXi hosts, yes, they will have 2 or 3 VCP admins. But for most of the places where I have seen, you will be one VMware admin, and you will be paid good as a VMware admin, because they know that they need somebody who is certified, that knows the technology. So going back to your question, no, it's not huge. I know that there are so many components, but once you start working on them, and we don't have to work on all the components every day. So one day you're only working on ESXi host. The other day you're only making VMs, maybe 2 or 3 VMs. Another day you might be working on just VCSA. Another day you're doing a VUM update. So yes, so you will do that on your own pace.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. So guys, VDP, so in order to have VDP, so first of all, we need to deploy VDP, number one. Number two, then we need to integrate this with the vCenter. Number two, access VDP will be VDP plugin in over there. So there is, so from the Vsphere client in VCSA, we'll connect to the VDP. So here you connect to the appliance. So it will be connected through Vsphere client. So this is Vsphere web client, same client that you connect to VCSA. First you connect to VCSA, then you connect to VDP from VCSA, and then you will configure the storage. So we configure the storage where the backup will be gone, and then we will configure the backups. Configuring the backup meaning that I need to back up 3 ESXi hosts. So the 3 ESXi host goes back to this storage. In point number 5, these backups are going into this storage. And the last one is that 7th is that if you need to restore anything, then you will restore from the backup and you will restore that VCP.
Sir, I have a question.
So there are these, yes, go ahead.
So there is a agent-less backup in VDP, right? So when there are like when the VMs are installed, so you don't need agent, right? But what about other like VCS? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
When do you need the agent here in backup?
Oh, yes. Okay. So yeah, let's understand that one more time. So first of all, in order to have, let's say your company decide to have VDP, right? So before VDP, we have our own environment. So I'm coming back to your question, Alamgir. So first of all, your company needs to have ESXi hosts. So these are my ESXi hosts. So my ESXi host, and these ESXi hosts will be managed with cluster. So we will create a cluster. We will connect all ESXi hosts with the cluster. For a cluster, I need to have VC. So VC, vCenter. So I have a vCenter. First of all, you need to have a vCenter. Number two, you have a cluster. Number three, you have ESXi host. Now your ESXi host has VMs as well. So these have VMs. So number 4, I have VMs inside. So these are number 4. So these are 4 components that we are running in this environment. Now your company decides to have a backup of this environment or updates of these environment. So first of all, your company needs to buy both of the products. So once they buy both of the product will come as ISO. So there is an ISO for VUM. There is an ISO for VDP. Both of the software will come as ISO. Once you have ISO, then we will implement these ISO within vCenter. So first of all, you need to have vCenter. Within the vCenter, we will install VUM in here. And we will install VDP in here as well. So both of the products are installed. And both of the products will connect back to the storage because this will store all of the updates. This will store, you get that storage from iSCSI storage or SAN, and this will have its own storage where you will store all of the backups. Okay. So is this understandable to everyone? This environment we already understand. This is an update product. This is backing up product. Both have storage, and storage are stored in this. So storage are stored. So all of the updates will be stored in this storage, which is iSCSI storage. All of the backups are stored in here. And where is it getting the updates? It is getting the updates from VMware. So VMware, we all know that they create patches, updates, and these all will be sent to VUM. And from VUM, we will create first a baseline, and then we will attach that baseline to ESXi host. And once we attach the baseline to ESXi host, we will scan and then we will remediate. So guys, remember these 4 steps for interview. That how do you assign? How do you update your environment? First of all, you need to have VUM. The VUM will download all of the updates from VMware. Number 2. Number 3 is that you need to create a baseline. Number 3. Number 4, the baseline will be attached with, so A means attached. So this is attached to the ESXi host, number 4. And number 5 is you will scan the environment, number 5. And number 6 is remediate. So this will update the environment. So baseline, attach, scan, and remediate. So about VDP, VDP will create backup. So you will buy a license. In both cases, your company needs to buy a license here. So they will buy a license in that both cases. Once you have VDP, you will configure this, you will configure VDP. So first of all, you need to download VDP. So first of all, download VDP and then attach it to vCenter. Once it is attached, then you will configure the storage. So you will configure a storage here. So with VDP, first of all, you need to download VDP. So download VDP. Guys, this is a very important review of this. So later on, maybe listen to this one more time and make your own notes as well on this. And maybe by driving, just listen to this one more time, because these are very, very important part. This is very important information. So first of all, you download VDP. Number 2, you attach this to VDP. So attach to vCenter. Once it is attached, then third is you will create a storage. So you will create a storage where the backups will be done. So storage will be here, number 3, and then you will configure the backup. So number 4 is we configure backup. So once you configure backup, the backup will be stored in the storage. So right here. So backup will be basically stored in the storage, and this is how you backup. And then when you need to restore it, it will be restored from here. Now going back to your question. So going back to your question, Alamgir, your question is, in which case do we need an agent? So I said that there is no agent required backing up these VMs. So VDP can directly back up this. So for normal Windows server 2012, 2016, there is no agent required. The agent is only required if you're working with SQL database. If you're working with, let's say this server is a SQL database, then you need an agent. If this other VM has Exchange database, let's say this has Exchange, the email solution, then you need an agent. So on that machine, you need an agent. This is why the agent is known as app agent. So if I go back here, this is known as app agent. App means that this agent is only for apps like Exchange, SQL, and SharePoint. Okay, guys. So this was our environment. Okay, so my question for you is, in VCP training, do you have to create an environment, or the environment is already there and you just need to complete the labs?
Sir, environment is there. We just need to create the lab. That's it. All the infrastructure is there.
Okay, excellent. So all of the infrastructure is there. How was the first lab? Was it difficult or easy?
I think it was not difficult, but it was like first day and trying to understand the whole website and so many things, right? So finally,
right.
It looks easy now. So we all have done our first lab yesterday. The good part is that we are all doing together to help each other.
Right. Okay, excellent. And can you interact with the trainer as well? Can you interact with the trainer?
I sent him a couple of emails and his response time is very good.
Okay,
so
good.
He replied me back a couple of times. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So guys, the last thing that we need to discuss is this. This is an advanced technology, Vsphere replication. Now, Vsphere replication, guys, it is a technology in which you just need a knowledge on this. And Vsphere replication mostly vSphere replication is set up by architects, by designers, but here I added it so that if at any point in time it comes in discussions, in interviews, straightforward, you can tell them that you know the technology. It was but you're not an expert on vSphere replication. vSphere replication is basically a technology to create a disaster recovery website. So this is our source website. Sorry, disaster recovery site, not a website. It's a site. Let's say this is my main site in, let's say, sitting in Brampton, in Brampton City, and this is my target site. So I need to have a complete backup of this site here in this environment. And what is the main reason for this? The main reason for this environment, the main reason for this is at any point in time, if this ESXi environment goes down because of natural disaster, and mostly it is protection against natural disaster. Natural disaster includes maybe a complete electricity is gone, maybe complete, it can be anything. So it can be any natural disaster, and this complete site is down. Your complete Brampton site is down. Maybe the complete data center is, they are renovating the data center, and this data center is completely down. So for that reason, your company can create a disaster recovery website. So we call this DR site. And in order to have DR site, VMware provides an application called vSphere replication. So vSphere replication, it's not just one application, it is a complete environment. So it has all these components attached. So from the diagram, we can see we already know what is vSphere client. We know what is vSphere client. We already know what is vCenter. So vCenter, we connect to vCenter, and then we manage our ESXi host. The new things here is when you create a vSphere replication, first of all, you need to select a site. You need to select another data center, and that data center should be another data center in another city. So this is Brampton data center. This might be London data center. So in that data center, first you need to have networking. So network team will create a networking for this. And then we will download an appliance called VR appliance. So that VR appliance is basically, the appliance is known as vSphere replication. So you don't need only one appliance, you need two appliances, one on this side and one on the other side in the other data center. And once you have these appliances, then you need to select which ESXi host will be completely cloned. So this is basically you're cloning it. So this vSphere appliance is almost the same as FT. Remember that we discussed about FT, that we can have a complete clone of a VM sitting in another ESXi host in case if that VM goes down or ESXi host goes down, you can enable that other VM for FT. So, but this is vSphere replication is for complete ESXi host. So ESXi host will be complete. So this will provide a complete replication for ESXi host. In this case, what happens is once you have set up vSphere appliance on both sides, then what you can do is you can basically, it will start replicating. So this is this link here. This is replicating everything to this ESXi host. Now, the target site is a location for VM replica. This is a source site of location of original VM. So basically, this is so it's a replica of ESXi host, meaning it's a replica of everything in this ESXi host. Meaning that if this ESXi host has 20 VMs or 40 VMs, this complete ESXi host along with the VMs is being replicated on the other side.
Do they take advantage of Vmotion over here? And
it's a good question. I think no. Vmotion is not used with because it has its own complete system. So it has its vSphere replication. I think Vmotion is not a requirement for this. because this itself is an expensive technology. So only large companies has this technology. Smaller companies will rely on backups. Some smaller companies would rely on DRS, because DRS will give you a load balancing, and Vmotion will give you an automatic movement of machine. But this is for only large organization, and this is an expensive product as well. So medium-sized organization might not be able to deploy this product as well. Okay. So any question, anyone so far?
So last class was not uploaded, I think, if for HA.
Oh, I didn't upload it the last class. Sorry about that.
Yes.
I will upload
If you
it.
want to go through that, okay. Thank you, sir.
I will for sure. Sorry about that. I will upload the class. And
Sir,
And
I
so
have
one more thing, sir. Did you teach OpenFiler over here in the class?
OpenFiler, yes, we spend 2 days on storage. So for OpenFiler, basically I provided a video, but we used Windows iSCSI instead of OpenFiler. But
Okay.
there is a video on both of them. I provided a
No,
video for OpenFiler and
both
for.
of them. I did both of them, but I found OpenFiler a bit complicated.
I cannot. So OpenFiler is complicated. So remember that within the storage lecture, we discussed that storage is not our responsibility. So storage is basically storage team's responsibility. But just to make a storage available here, we created our own storage. So if OpenFiler is a bit difficult for you, it's fine. Nobody will ask questions you on OpenFiler. But they might ask you question on Windows iSCSI. So you should have a good concept of Windows iSCSI, that you need to create a target, then you need to add a disk, then you need to create a virtual disk and all that.
Sir, I have a question here.
Yes, go ahead.
So for Vsphere replication, so there's a full setup on the far side, right? So
It's a full setup on the other side, yes.
So everything is being backed up, like of all sites are just for one main office.
So it will be, yes, it's a good question. So what is actually being replicated? What is actually being replicated? So it depends on the organization. So it depends on your company that what do you want to be replicated? Do you want to replicate everything on the other side? I mean, if you replicate everything on the other side, which means that if you have 200 VMs on this side, all 200 VM will be replicated here. This will be very, very, very what do you call expensive solution. So and your question is very important, and to answer this, we only replicate selective ESXi host and selective VMs. Not everything will go on to the other side. So only those servers that are absolutely required to start up a new site. So maybe in a smaller environment, you will replicate everything. In a large environment, we'll pick and choose which needs to be replicated on the DR side.
So in that case, if there's a disaster, if nothing can come back, so only those few things will be replicated, which were replicated, they will come back. So the rest, whatever the disaster was done,
will not come back. Yes.
Not
so, but
create everything.
Yes. So let's understand this point. So when I say only we will pick and choose servers, so we will pick and choose servers in this. So which means that let's say in this environment, I have 5 domain controllers, right? So on the other side, you don't need 5 domain controllers. Only 1 domain controller will have all the information. So instead of replicating all 5 domain controller, we'll keep 1 domain controller here. And let's say on this side, I have 3 file servers, and 3 file servers are exactly the same. So instead of copying 3 file servers, we can take 1 file server, create 1 file server. So like this, we don't need to. So we can replicate. And remember that this replication is costing the company a lot of money. So if company thinks that, you know, I'm running a financial organization, or I am running, let's say, a huge big e-commerce website that is making millions and billions, they can easily select everything will be replicated, just like Google. They replicate their complete data center from one place to another, even country to country. Their replication includes everything. They don't pick and choose because they are making money. But for companies like, let's say, companies like, even like Roger is a huge big company, but they're still not as big as Google or as big as Microsoft. So they still need to, when they created disaster recovery, because I was involved in the disaster recovery as well. In disaster recovery, we picked and chose what of the machine, what are the VM that needs to be replicated on the other side. So you get the point that yes, so whatever is replicated, that replication has everything. If this site is not available, you will have, this site will run the show. So it can run your website, it can run your environment, because you have one copy of all important servers.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, guys, so here, let's quickly look at this complete environment. So on this page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all the important things that we need to remember for interviews. So I have, let's say, these all servers for ESXi host. Now, first of all, you need to have a Windows machine so we need to have this Windows machine, number one, Vsphere web client. So this is, I'm going to call this a web client. So this is a web client. And if you're making this with me on your notes, that will be excellent, because this picture is going to be, basically, this picture is going to be, this picture is going to have a lot of information on this. So first of all, we have a vSphere web client. And then we have our ESXi host 1. So this is ESXi host 1, this is ESXi host 2, this is ESXi host 3. And then in these ESXi hosts, we have VMs. And within the VMs, we have that one important VM, which is known as VCSA. VCSA is a vCenter. And then we have a file server on this. And then we have a web server on this. So there are many, many different VMs. So these are all of the, so this is our base environment. And in this base environment, we have, so each of the ESXi host has its own switch, remember? So, and that switch is known as a standard switch. So this is known as a standard switch. And each standard switch, everyone, each standard switch, guys, if you're not actively listening, please actively listen. This last 10 minutes is very, very important for the complete review. So first of all, you need to have a web client. Web client can be a Windows server. It can be a Windows machine. All you need is a client that needs to connect to your environment. And then we have ESXi host.
Yeah, is it possible you just can type it, because this is very important thing. It will be little easy to understand, and we
Alamgir, I think typing, we have all of the notes, and in typing it will waste a lot of time.
No, I'm just talking about this environment, that's it. Like,
type the environment. Typing the environment again. So I will forget the review then. So I need to remember each and everything here. And the main reason that I'm giving this review is to give everything in here. So, so you're saying that typing in here, typing
yes,
in here.
Yeah, you don't know like what is SS. Some people, they don't know. I know it's a server or something, like in this sense,
Alamgir, come on, man. At this point, it's this last lecture of last 10 minutes. You should understand everything. This is not for somebody who is coming from outside. This is for you who spent 12 days on this training.
That's okay, but no problem.
I'll try because I need to think, and I need to also review as well. For that reason, I need to make it more and more interactive. Okay, so for that, let me see that if I can do it. If I can do it, I'll do it. Let's say, because every time I have to copy this and then I have to type this here.
Oh, it's hard.
So here, this one is a Windows server. It has a client, and also there is no space on this to type everything. Okay, so let me do this. Let me just complete the diagram, and later I can update the diagram maybe.
Sure, no problem.
Sir, first complete your 10 minutes, right? Whatever lecture you were giving, keep continue. And then later on, if you want to write it down, if time allows you, then you can write it
Right.
down. We all should know what we are doing.
Exactly. So at this point, my understanding is that you should be able to understand 90% of what I am going to make here. 90%. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So just a second here. I need an empty slide actually. So new slide. Okay. So it is, hold on. I'll have to remove this. Okay. So now in here, this will give us everything. So later on, I will try to kind of, this review is very, very important. So here, I have these. Okay. So here, guys, so this is our environments. We have Windows Server, number 1. Number 2, we have E1, ESXi host, ESXi host 2, ESXi host 3. Then we have a VCSA, we have VS, we have a web server. So these are VMs. And each ESXi host, first of all, making the environment, then we need to understand the networking. Networking means we have a standard switch. So this one is a standard switch here. And standard switch, we all know that a standard switch is basically a switch that is available on each ESXi host. So the standard switch on this one cannot be on this one, or standard switch on this one cannot be on this one. And each standard switch has what? It has port groups. So there are 2 types of port group. Number 1, VM network port group. So this is VM network port group. And second one is VM management port group. So this is VM management port group. We know that there are port groups. And with VM network port group, guys, we all know that with VM network port group, we connect VMs. And with VM management port group, this is connected directly to ESXi host. And basically, when we manage ESXi host, we connect to a management port. And with management port, we know that management port, so VM network, so, or the VM ports has only one function. So if this is a VM port, this has only one function to connect to the VMs. Whereas management port group has 4 functions. Number 1 function is management. Number 1 function is management. Number 2 function is iSCSI, which is the storage. Number 3 function is Vmotion. Number 4 function is FT. And then it has 2 or 3 other functions as well. Alamgir, yes, you may ask a question.
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so these are switches. So this is called a standard switch, and within the standard switch, so within a standard switch, where is my mouse, man? Okay, so within the standard switch, everyone, within the switch, what happens is It has management, it has iSCSI, it has Vmotion, it has FT within the standard switch, and each standard switch exists in one ESXi host. Now, there is a second thing that we know in this environment, and that is known as distributed switch. So distributed switch is that switch that can manage all the switches inside each ESXi host. So this one is known as distributed switch. So this is known as distributed switch. This is known as standard switch. And distributed switch, always remember that if we need to make many changes on each switch, and those changes needs to be done in repeatedly on all of the ESXi hosts within all standard switch, what we do, we create a distributed switch. In this, we create our port groups, whatever port groups is required on all ESXi hosts, and this distributed switch will be attached to ESXi host. So then this distributed switch will create what it does, guys. Basically, distributed switch creates another switch inside each ESXi host. So it will create another standard switch inside each ESXi host that is connected to a distributed switch. So distributed switch cannot make changes into the default switch. So basically, when you create a distributed switch, we will create, let's say, a production port group. I create a Vmotion port group. I created a VM network port group. And these all port groups needs to be applied to this. What other settings can we do on a switch? I can do a security settings. Remember that we can do a promiscuous mode setting. We can do that MAC address changing, those security changes. We can also do NIC teaming on this switch. So all these settings, when you need to do on multiple ESXi hosts, then we use a distributed switch. So we make all these changes on this one switch, and then we connect that to all ESXi hosts. What the advantage of this is that it doesn't have to go back, that you don't have to go to each ESXi host and do all these changes. You just create a distributed switch and apply to all ESXi hosts, and these all settings will be applied to all ESXi hosts. Okay, so now we know that we have this environment. So in this environment, everyone, we have vCenter, we have ESXi1, we have ESXi2, and my PowerPoint just crashed. A bit of a lanat on this. Sorry about that, because I have to redo that again. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I have to redo that again. So if we don't understand, okay. Let's say if it can get it from the auto save, we're looking for auto recovery, and let's see that the new technology works or not. It should. It is opening from the temporary file, and quickly, go on. It is trying to recover.
Adnan, do you know why it happened? What this one happened?
Why?
Because of the Iranian culture, say because we broken the Alamgir heart.
Oh. Oh man, we broken the Alamgir heart, and this was Alamgir, you're heartbroken. Sorry about that, man. You should forgive. Oh, and it came back. It came back.
Yeah, see,
okay.
It's not broken.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, one more time. That was good for a change. By the way, do you understand the meaning of lanat, Human?
No? Sorry, we have the same. Yeah, we have.
What is the meaning in your language?
It's kind of, something happen, some We say kind of nifrin.
Meaning that something bad happens?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, this is exactly in our language too. Actually, our language is taken from Persian and what was the other language? Urdu. It's a combination of both.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
It's a
So
combination of
Okay.
Urdu itself is a Turkish
Persian and
word.
Arabic. Persian and Arabic.
Yes, Persian and Arabic. Yes.
Yes, Urdu itself is a Turkish word because most of the rulers came from Asia. They were Turkish people. So when they came along and mixed with the continent people, the new language evolved, which is called Urdu. It's been the Islamic army.
Okay, excellent. That's good to know. But your voice was still getting out. So Urdu is evolved from Persian, Arabic, and Turkish. Yeah, there are many Turkish words too.
And Sikrat
Yes,
too,
sir.
sir.
Like Hawa. Hawa is a Turkish word.
Okay, excellent. Okay, guys, going back to our review here, my goal here is to actually touch each and everything that we have covered. So let's see if I can touch each and everything here. So first of all, starting with our environment, guys, environment is Windows Server environment. We have ESXi host 1, ESXi 2, ESXi 3. First, we touched our networking environment. In networking, we need to understand two things for interview purposes, guys. The first thing that we need to understand for interview purposes is the type of switches. So there are only two types of switches there. One is known as a standard switch. The other one is known as, so this is standard switch, and the other one is known as distributed switch. Standard switch is, it exists. So standard switch and distributed switch, standard switch exists in each ESXi host, and each ESXi host can have many standard switches inside. But distributed switch is required when you need to do many changes within the ESXi host. You need to create one port group, second port group, and third port group, and then you need to do some security changes on this. You also need to do some MAC address changes. You also need to do NIC teaming on this. All those changes we will do, and then we will attach it to ESXi host. The important thing, the most important thing that we need to remember for interview, this distributed switch does not make changes to the default switch. It will create another invisible switch inside each ESXi host. Invisible, why am I saying invisible? Because you won't be able to see that switch, but the changes will be there. Your question will be, if I'm not able to see the switch, how can I make changes to this? If you're not able to see the switch, you will be able to make changes again to distributed and then apply to all ESXi hosts. So in terms of networking, we need to remember that there is standard switch, distributed switch, then there is port groups inside. One port group is for VM network, the other port group is for network management network. With the management network, it has these 4 functions. Whenever you need to use these functions, you need to enable that on management network. And management port is also known as VM kernel port. So VM kernel port. So this is for what do you call store. This is for networking. Now, in terms of storage, we all know that all ESXi host comes with a default data store. So it comes with a default data store, which is considered as data store 1. So there is a data store and there is a data store on all of them. Within this data store, the operating system of ESXi is stored, and also you can store VMs inside as well. But if you need more disk, then what we need to do, we need to attach a disk to each one of them. And once you attach a disk, that disk will be a raw disk. So this will be a raw disk. And then what you need to do, you need to basically format into a data store. So then you can create another data store here. So this is data store 1, and then we can create another data store on each one of them when you add more disks. So this we already know that you need to create another data store. The important thing here, remember that you need to name the data store properly. So you need to name a data store. When you format the raw disk, it will become a data store inside, and then on this data store, you can either store ISOs, you can either store VMs on this. So basically, this is another data store, but these both data store is known as local data store. So just like there are 2 types of switches, there are 2 types of data stores as well. So storage are of 2 types. There is internal storage, there is external storage. there is external storage. So internal storage is the internal disk that is attached. So both are data store becomes data store, and external storage is from the other server. So this is data store, internal storage, and in external storage, this is internal disk. This one is an external disk. Now for the external storage, we discussed that the storage are of many types. For the external storage, there are many other types of storage. For example, there is DAS, direct attached storage. There is NAS, network attached storage, and you can refer back to the lecture we are reviewing here. So there is DAS, direct attached storage. With NAS, there is a network attached storage. Then there is SAN. There is SAN, which is storage area network. And SAN is of two types. Number one is known as iSCSI SAN. Second one is known as fiber channel SAN. So both of all these different type of storage are basically a big box with a disk. So this is a big box. It will come as a box, and you have disks inside. And when you create disks inside, so in our training, we learned about iSCSI storage, because we cannot work on FC storage, fiber optic storage, fiber channel storage, because this storage is a very, very expensive storage. And what was our favorite fiber channel storage? EMC VNX 5200. Remember? So we need to remember these as well. And what is our favorite servers, guys? This server is DL380. So these servers is DL380. This SAN is EMC SAN, or maybe it is Dell Equalogic SAN. In our example, we worked with iSCSI SAN. So iSCSI SAN, we created both storage from Windows storage, Windows iSCSI, and we also used OpenFiler in our training. So OpenFiler, in both cases, an external storage will be created. In both cases, external storage will be created, and it will be okay. So that reminds me that I should save this picture before the PowerPoint is not able to understand my drawings here. So maybe it's angry that I'm making awful drawings on this. So here, guys, the idea is to understand this. So once we have this storage here, guys, we get a shared disk. Now that shared disk that we receive from this storage, so on this side, you need to create an iSCSI target. So on this side, you will be having iSCSI target. And on the client side or the server side, we have iSCSI initiator. So on the client side, we have iSCSI initiator. So here, so this is iSCSI target. On the other side, we have initiator. So when we have iSCSI target, and on the server side, we have initiator. And from the initiator, this storage will be connected. So guys, remember that we have iSCSI target on the iSCSI side and initiator on this side, and then we can connect the storage. Once we have connected the storage, that storage will be known as shared storage. So this is known as shared disk or shared storage. So within the storage, few things that we need to remember. Number one, that there is a local disk. So there is a local disk that is available on all ESXi hosts, but local disk is not good for any advanced features. So for advanced features, you must have a shared storage, and shared storage will come from where? The shared storage will come from all these different type of storage. So most of the time it will be coming from SAN storage, and SAN storage. There are two types of storage: iSCSI storage and FC storage. Anybody remembers why FC storage is very expensive?
So because it works in totally fiber environment, from backbone to all.
Exactly, because it has its own complete infrastructure. Anybody remembers what are the components of FC? Yes. So guys, we need to make summaries of everything that we have covered in this training. So you might have notes as well. Yes, I know that you are going through basically the VCP training, but please keep safe, keep in a safe location your all of the notes, because at the end of this training, we'll have to make summaries of everything. So just like I'm reviewing this, the summary will have the networking components of ESXi host, the storage components of ESXi host, and summary will also have the infrastructure that we discussed for FC. I understand that it's a new technology for everyone, and you might not be able to remember because we have learned so many things here. But later on, when we create summaries, we'll create summaries from your notes. Okay, so remember, yes, Abdullah is mentioning in the chat window that FC within the infrastructure, FC has its own. First of all, it will be a box. So fiber channel will be a box with a lot of disks inside, and we also discussed in detail what type of disk will be there. So guys, everything that we have discussed in these lectures are very, very important, very close to the environment, and we actually went into extra mile on each and every product that we learned. Yes, we might not be able to touch some technologies in VMware, but guys, remember, technology in terms of newer technology is not used much. What you need is basically the base understanding of how storage works, networking works, and with that, if you have made a detailed notes, if anyone has made detailed note, that will be excellent for everyone. So later on, we will be making summaries. So the components of FC is that there is a box which is known as fiber channel, which is known as SAN. So this is known as sandbox, and sandbox has what do you call storage processor. So this is SPs connected here. Then SPs connect to a fiber channel switch. So it connects to a fiber channel switch, and then that switch connects to ESXi host through HBAs. So these cards that are connected, these are known as HBAs. So they connect to. So the components of SAN is number one, the sandbox itself. Number one, number two, storage processor. Number three, the storage. Number three, the fiber channel switch. Number four is HBA that connects to the server, and this is all discussed in there. So here we discussed the storage networking part, then we discussed the storage part. Storage, you need to remember that in storage, we need to have external storage, internal storage. Internal storage is only good for operating system. So internal storage of ESXi host is not used for anything else. Everything is stored in the shared storage. Okay. So having said all that, let's now move on to some advanced things here. So let's think for a second that we have this environment working. Actually, we know that this environment is working. So this is again our Vsphere client. Okay, why am I typing it with W? So this is my Vsphere client, VC. So this is Vsphere client. A Windows Server. In our case, it was Windows Server 2016. And this is where this is our E1, this is E2, and this one is E3. Guys, again, on a rough page, please start making it. I know everyone is tired, but please just bear with me another 10-15 minutes on this. And this is a very, very important review. So we have ESXi1, ESXi2, ESXi3, and VCSA. So this is our VCSA. Now that we have our networking done, our ESXi environment is working fine, VCSA is working fine. Now we are ready to basically set up this environment with Vmotion, DRS, HA, and FT. So first of all, in order to do all that, we need to have VCSA. So this is all part of VCSA. So first of all, we need to have a VCSA for everything, which means that VCSA will be managing all this environment. So if I can say that VCSA is encircling everything in here, number one. Number two is under VCSA, we created a data center. So we created a data center to manage all this environment. Number two is this. So data center, actually we created a folder as well. So folder is basically, guys, folder has no technical, requirement. Folder, you cannot do much on folder. Folder is basically just for management. Folder is used just for the management of your or organization of your environment. You can create one folder for your Toronto data center, another folder for different. So we need to remember that folder is just used for different location, department, or whatever your requirement is. Okay. So folder, number one folder, and then what we also did that in this environment under the folder we created a cluster, and within the cluster are all ESXi hosts will be part of the cluster, and within the cluster now we will start setting up all of our Vmotion requirements. So Vmotion requirements, starting with the first one. So if you need to have a Vmotion in this environment, so what are the requirements of Vmotion? Number one requirement is that you need to have vCenter. So number one requirement is vCenter. Number two requirement is 2 or more ESXi hosts. Number two requirement is 2 or more ESXi hosts. Number three is you must have a shared storage. So you must have a shared storage. Number three requirement. Number four requirement is that you must have CPU almost same, or they should be compatible. So Intel or AMD. So these are those CPUs. So Intel or AMD. Number five requirement. So number five requirement, which is a hardcore requirement for this, and number five requirement is you must have VNet exactly the same. So you must have VNet. So this is a networking requirement. You need to have VM network port group exactly the same, VM network port group exactly the same in this.
Sir, excuse me.
Yes.
Sir, could you please accept Bhatti Bhai request? I think he's waiting.
To write it down?
No, in the meeting.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is on my other screen. It's on my other screen, and you just scared me that I should write everything down. Then how can we do the review? Okay. Okay. So I think he's in. Guys, everyone, let's see how many of you are active. Just type yes in the chat window. So if I'm active, I'm expecting that you should be active. Just last 10, 15 minutes, guys. This review is very, very important. And if you're able to understand this review, maybe you can cut this audio from here. And just before the interview, just listen to this one time, and this will review everything. So just by listening to this will give you a good review of everything. So we have Faz, we have Zishan, we have Abdullah, we have Human, we have Alamgir, and we have Salim. Everyone is here except Ashish. Okay, must be tired. So Wasim is here, everyone is here. Okay, excellent. So guys, here we have, so this is our environment based. So in the previous slide we just discussed, so previous slide, it is showing us the previous slide. So previous slide is networking here at the bottom, storage on the top. And here we have Vmotion requirement. So Vmotion requirement, guys, this is an interview question. What is the requirement of Vmotion? So you need to have this on your fingertips before going for the interview. So this must be part of your summary. VC is a requirement. Actually, VC is not a requirement for this. If it is part of a VC, VC is a requirement for this. VC is a requirement. Without VC, how can you enable the shared storage? And also VC is a requirement. Cluster is not a requirement. Yes, cluster is not a requirement. Okay, thank you, Ashish. You're saying you're logged onto the phone. Thank you. And here, VC is a requirement, 2 or more ESXi hosts, shared storage, VCP, CPU, Intel or AMD, and VM network is a Vmotion requirement. And we need to do this on all ESXi hosts one by one. So if you have 20 ESXi hosts, you need to make sure that networking is exactly the same on all ESXi hosts, and then shared storage is connected to all of them. Now, when this is done, then what we need to do, second thing, we need to enable DRS in this environment. And with the DRS, DRS is basically that manager. So DRS is a manager. So DRS is right here. DRS is a manager that does load balancing. So on this side, I'm going to write number one, DRS does load balancing. Load balancing. So DRS, number one, it does load balancing. DRS does VM placement. So it does VM placement. And I hope that you're writing it down somewhere because it is basically going into your long-term memory. VM, what am I doing? This is why thinking and writing at the same time, we think faster than we write. And okay. So VM placement. It does VM placement, and also DRS does is power management. Guys, this is everything that you require for interviews, guys. Oh, Alamgir is again disconnected. Sorry about that. Why Alamgir is disconnecting again and again? Okay.
So I have two
machines.
screens, yeah, but I don't know. My I think network is acting up.
It's just tired. It's called tiredness.
But I am not.
So yes, you're not tired for sure. You look like active. So here, everyone, we have DRS. DRS is load balancing, VM placement, power management, and optimization. Basically, these three functions are done by DRS. And in DRS, we have automation levels. So we have automation levels. So automation levels can be manual. It can be partially automated. Partially automated, or it can be fully automated. Or it can be fully automated. Then it has threshold level. Threshold level. So what is a threshold level? Threshold level can be conservative and aggressive. Or aggressive. And we had a discussion on this as well. We'll keep it on conservative plus with full automated level. In aggressive, it will make the environment so busy that your environment won't be able to do even the legit task that it is there to do for. So threshold levels, there are threshold levels for this. There is automation levels here. There are threshold levels, conservative, and then there are affinity rules. So there is for DRS, there is affinity rules. So here, affinity rules. And there are three types of rules are there. Number one, keep VM same. So keep VMs together. Keep VM together. And keep VM separated. Keep VM separated. Separated. And number three is keep VM on a host. Keep VM on certain host. So we need to stick one VM to the host. So these four things we need to remember for DRS. Number one, DRS functions. Number two, DRS automation. Number three, DRS thresholds. Number four, affinity rules in DRS. So these are all DRS. Once DRS is enabled, what is the main requirement of DRS? For the main requirement of DRS is, so here, DRS main requirement is that you must have a vCenter, number one. You must have a cluster. Number two. Number three, you must have Vmotion. So these are all of the main hardcore requirement of DRS. And with Vmotion requirement, we also know that these are all of the Vmotion requirements. So if there is no shared storage, there is no common networking, then DRS will not function. So beware of trick questions in the interviews where they might say that, DRS is ready and DRS is there in the environment and the shared storage went down. Can you still DRS? Is DRS is shared storage is a mandatory requirement for DRS? So I mean, this question in the requirement is nothing. It's not there, but we need to remember that DRS shared storage is a requirement of Vmotion. So since it is a requirement of Vmotion, then it is also a requirement of DRS. So we need to remember that. So DRS is here. So for DRS, we must have a vCenter, we must have a cluster, we must have a data center. Cluster cannot be there without data center. So data center, cluster, DRS, Vmotion should all be there. So it's just saving it and. So quickly, okay, so just in case if I need more slides, so right here, so we discussed Vmotion and DRS, and so starting with right here, we have this is our Vsphere client. This is ESXi host 1. This is ESXi host 2. This is ESXi host 3. This is our VCSA appliance, and we know that this is all in vCenter, and vCenter we also have a data center. Within the data center we have a cluster, and this is all connected all together. And we also have DRS on this as well. So DRS. Now in order to enable HA, so with DRS we also have Vmotion as well. So we also have Vmotion enabled, and we can refer back to the previous slide for requirement of DRS and HA. Now we need to enable HA in this. So first of all, HA basically protects us from physical disaster of ESXi host. So here protects against physical ESXi host crash. Number one. So what are the requirement of HA? For HA requirements are you must have so for HA requirement is number one, you must have VC. You must have vCenter, number one. Number two, you must have cluster. Number two. Number three, you must have DRS. So DRS is a requirement for HA. So these are the requirement. And number two is that how does HA work? So working in, first of all, we need to enable HA. Once you enable HA, election happens. So election happens, and one ESXi host becomes master. So one ESXi host becomes master, and all other becomes slaves. Right. So then in HA, one ESXi host becomes master and all other ESXi hosts become slaves. Then in this, what happens is we also learned that as soon as you enable this, fault domain manager is created. So fault domain manager is created in HA. And you can refer back to the video. Fault domain manager, main function of fault domain manager is to keep an eye on all the servers. So for example, as soon as you enable HA, one of them will become master, the other one will become slave. So these are two slaves, and HA fault domain manager will basically make sure that all these ESXi hosts are alive. So if these all ESXi hosts are alive, then HA will do nothing. As soon as any ESXi host goes down, in that case, FDM, fault domain manager, has a complete list of all ESXi hosts and all VMs. If this goes down at any point in time, if this is not available, what it does, it will start all of the VMs on the other two ESXi hosts. And for that, it is going to need a DRS. If DRS is part of HA, what it does, it will place the VMs properly on all ESXi hosts. So this is what we need to understand. Now in HA, what can go down? So what can go down in HA? So the question is, what can go down? What can go down in VC? So in order to answer that, your network can go down. So network can go down, and HA will protect you against the network disturbance. So number one. Number two is the network card can go down on ESXi host. And number three, ESXi host itself can go down. So HA will protect you in all of them, in all of these cases. And HA main idea here to remember is with HA is that there will be a downtime with HA. So the downside of HA, so here I would say this is a cons of HA, that if that VMs, so users will be disconnected and users will be disconnected. And guys, this is again for interview. Always remember, this is again for interview, because they might want to know that what is the problem with HA and how do you fix it. So first of all, the problem with HA is end users will be disconnected. End users will be disconnected for few minutes, for maybe few seconds, few minutes, or probably maybe for few hours as well. Now if they, so in which case it will go down for few hours, maybe because your cluster doesn't have enough resources to basically accommodate all of the VMs. So let's say there are 20 VMs and you have resources available only for 10 VMs. So what about the other 10 VMs? So for that, those 10 VMs won't be started, only 10 VMs will be started, and the other 10 VM you need to make resources or fix the ESXi host as soon as possible. So this is why I'm saying sometime it can go down, some of the VMs can go down for few hours. Okay, so that is what is known as HA. And HA for requirement is you must have VC, you must have data center, you must have a cluster. And DRS is not an absolute requirement. Now I remember, it's not an absolute requirement, but it is good to have. So it is good to have. So if you have DRS, then it will properly place the VMs everywhere and it will load balance the environment. If you don't have DRS, then HA will still start VMs on the other ESXi host. It might not be balanced. So it will start maybe 5 VMs on this, 3 VMs on this. But if DRS is there, then everything will be properly balanced. The next one is FT. So FT is another important requirement for this. So again, we have Vsphere client, we have ESXi host 1, ESXi host 2, ESXi host 3, and here you have VCSA. For VCSA, it is managed by vCenter. It is managed by a data center, which has a data center. It also has a cluster. It has a DRS inside. It has Vmotion inside. As well, and it has HA as well. So this is our complete environment. Now about FT, number one, FT is an expensive option. In FT, as soon as you enable FT, so FT protects us. So zero downtime. So zero downtime for VMs. It's a zero downtime for VM. So your VM basically, so FT will protect critical VM. It will protect critical VM. So it is protecting critical VM. When you enable FT, so first of all, requirement, it has strict requirements. It has very, very strict requirement, and the requirement includes all the basic requirement, which means that it has to have a VC, it has to have a cluster, it has to have HA as well. HA is an absolute requirement, hardcore requirement for FT, and it also has a requirement of specific CPU. It only works with specific CPU. It cannot work with all CPUs. Specific CPU. You need to go back to HCL and remember what is HCL, everyone. HCL is a hardware compatibility list from VMware. Always remember that. You can refer back to that list there. And now I know that my pointer doesn't like to go outside the white slide. As soon as I click on outside, it goes crazy. So I'm not going to go outside the white slide here. So VMware HCL, which is hardware compatibility list. So guys, it has really strict requirement. And not only that, you cannot have any external device attached to that VM. And FT is only for VMs. So FT is only for VMs. It is only for VMs. It's not for the host. It's not for anything. It's only for the VM. So you can select one of the VMs to enable FT. So let's say if all requirements are met, I will enable FT on this one. And what it does, it will create a copy of this FT. It will create a copy of this on another ESXi host. And as soon as it creates a copy on the other ESXi host, one becomes a primary. So this becomes a primary and this becomes secondary. So now it is vmotioning everything all the time. So basically vmotion, we do it sometimes. Vmotion can be done basically on your own, but this is vmotion. FT requires a vmotion 24/7. So basically what it is doing, it is vmotioning everything. So vmotion, so this is why it is an expensive technology. So if you enable FT on one VM, it is doing vmotion 24/7. So everything that is happening on this VM is being copied on this VM. So this VM is 100% clone of this VM. So here we said that VC, the requirement is VC, we have a cluster. Cluster is a requirement, HA is a requirement, specific CPU is a requirement, and also no external devices attached to any VM. So that VM that needs to be FT, no external devices like USB device and all that. So this is FT requirement. And once you have all these requirements met, all you need to do is select a VM and then you can start using that VM. Now, one more thing, that you have a hardcore requirement of FT, you can only enable FT for 4 VMs. 4 VMs FT enable, you can only enable FT for 4 VMs in one ESXi host. ESXi host. So once FT is enabled, one becomes primary, second becomes a secondary. Interview question is that what happens if the primary VM goes down, then what happens? So here interview question, if primary VM goes down, then what happens? If primary VM goes down, then what happens? So in that case, guys, secondary will become primary. So number one, secondary VM will become primary VM, number one, and all the users will be connected. And secondly, there is a secondary VM will be created again. Secondary VM will be created again on another ESXi host automatically. Created again.
Sir, I have a question here.
And yes, please go ahead.
So if there are 4 VMs, if the primary VM goes down, so second VM which is secondary, it becomes primary, right? And the third one, which is also secondary, that does not become secondary again.
Oh, okay. Good question. Very good question. So always remember that in FT, there can be only one secondary. So primary has one secondary. And when I say only 4 VMs, we can enable FT, which means that this ESXi host has 20 VMs. So from those 20 VMs, I can enable FT only on 4 VMs. So I can enable FT on this. So this will become primary, as secondary will become in another server. And I can enable FT on this, and I can maximum of 4 VMs I can enable FT on out of 20 VMs. So this is what means 4 VMs FT. But every primary will have only one secondary. Is that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say I have all these VMs in one ESXi host. So maximum of 4 VMs we can enable FT. So this is a requirement. I mean, if you don't do this, if VM cannot, if VM doesn't put a requirement on this, I mean, limitation on this, then your environment will be very, very busy. Your ESXi host cannot handle 24/7 vMotion for 6 or 7 VMs. So I mean, that will be very, very difficult for the environment. Okay, so guys, this is FT, and FT is another is another feature that you need to enable and you need to remember for interview purposes. And this is main things in order to basically you need to have these all things on your fingertips to basically have a successful go through a successful interview. Guys, your role as a VCP admin, will be starting from let's say maybe a mid-size admin. So for a mid organization, not for a bigger organization. In bigger organization, you will have multiple VCP admins there. But for most of the organization, as a VCP admin, my experience says that when I started first time with this environment, after completing a training, I was into the environment. Guys, this environment is so stable that it runs on its own. So these ESXi hosts never go down. These ESXi, the VMs are running on this. Vmotion is working fine. DRS is working fine. But with all this information in your mind, or all these expertise in your brain, you can easily manage this environment of 20 or 50 ESXi hosts, because vCenter is working on its own, ESXi is working on its own. But when it comes for troubleshooting, yes, then you need to definitely work with these ESXi hosts. This is where you are going to need all this knowledge. So becoming a VMware admin and taking this certification, after that you become a VMware admin, it's not a very difficult task. I would say becoming a system admin is more difficult, because Windows servers are not that stable. Windows server goes down. Setting up a failover cluster is very difficult. Managing WSUS is difficult. Managing SCCM is difficult. But this environment, as compared to anything else, is not that difficult. But the only thing they require from you, number one, is certification. Number two, this all knowledge on your fingertips. So when you go for interview, you need to have all this knowledge on your fingertips, and plus more on this. So for that, we will create summaries. We will prepare interview question, and this will be a brief for everyone. Okay, so any question, anyone? So this is a complete review of everything what we have discussed. So I would say just prepare well, and also VCP, just go through this VCP Stanley College training, focus on certification. So if there is anything that is very, very difficult, try to solve everything. This is a good thing that you're all working in groups, and you're also sharing snapshots as well. So that will really help everyone. The main goal from this training is to getting certified and also become an expert of all these technologies here. So any question, anyone?
Sir, I checked this Stanley College, the whole lab. Okay. It's a real lab, but their document is like they created the manual. You don't need to do anything. Just follow the manual, and the lab will be done in like 5-10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. So it's a step-by-step lab. They provided a step-by-step.
Yeah. So I checked it.
Can you download the labs too? Can you download the lab, or there is no option?
I did, sir. I did. I downloaded the lab as well. Right.
Okay, so can you share it with all of us? So maybe the people who are not going for this training, maybe they can take advantage of that lab as well.
Yes, I'll do it.
Okay.
And it's easy, only a matter of time, like how much time you spend, and as much as time you spend, you will finish it quickly. That's it.
Okay. That's it. So how many of you are at the moment going for this training?
I think me, Ashish, Bhatti Bhai, Salim Bhai, and Naveed, and Zishan.
Okay, all of you. Faz, you haven't registered for this training? Oh, Faz is not here. It's gone. Okay. Okay, Faz is now here. Faz, you haven't registered for the Stanley College, but you already have VCP, I think. Faz?
No, sir, I'm not VCP, sir. So I sent the email to them. I think a week later, they told me that you have to wait to another class.
Yes. So yes. So there is a waiting list. Of,
Yes.
in 2-3 weeks, you will get a reply back.
Yes, but I was not included in this 13th January session.
I missed that. Can you repeat that, please?
Okay, just 1 second, sir. I said I was not included in that 13th of January session, sir. They said
Okay. Okay.
You have to
No
wait.
problem. No problem. Faz, you must go through this training and get the certification. This is an important certification. Okay. Okay. So everyone, if there are no more questions, what we decided before, we will.
So one thing, sir,
Yes, go ahead.
if you don't mind, sir, because I'm just going through the 410 training, the videos which you have posted. I think those videos are incomplete. Only 5 videos are there. If you can have a look, sir, because of the fault tolerance and network load balancing, those videos are not there, sir.
Yes. So, so Faz, what happens is that those labs are attached to the training. So the thing is, most of the time I will post only videos that are required for the class. So, but there are, you can go through 410, 411, and 412. So those have all of those labs as well. So if not 470, 471, 470. No, 740, 741, 742. You can start with 410, 411, 412.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
But isn't it the main difference between Windows 2012 and Windows 2016?
No, it's almost the same. It's almost the same. Server 2012 is almost the same as Server 2016, even Server 2019. So there is not much change.
Thank you.
So, but you can try to do the labs on Server 2016. You might have a little challenge there, but if not, then you can install a Server 2012.
Okay, so I will do that, sir.
Okay. Okay. So guys, we'll have 1 week of break, and right after the break, we'll start with our Azure training.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And sir, thanks a
Okay.
lot. This refresher is very good, sir. So this refresher was excellent, sir.
Excellent.
Sir,
Excellent.
just a request, sir. If you can upload sir today's video and the last video so that we can go through. Okay. Thank you, sir.
I
Thank
will,
you, sir.
inshallah.
Take care, sir.
Sure.
Okay,
Take care, everyone, and you're most welcome. And let's hope for the best, and inshallah, this will turn out good, and we'll all be successful, inshallah, everyone.
So, sir, the next class, the Azure class will start on the next Thursday, right?
So it will be on next Thursday or Monday. So we can start
Monday,
fresh
sir.
on the
Monday is okay.
after the week.
Yes, sir. Monday is fine.
Yeah.
Yes, Monday is
Is it
fine.
the
So we'll
25th?
start from. It will be 25th. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like a
Everyone.
plan.
Thank you.
So it's like a happy holidays.
Here is a curfew, sir. No holiday, no nothing. We cannot go outside because the curfew is here.
But at least you're not having a training.
Yes.
So now we are in Vsphere training. That is more complicated. It's a professional environment. Stanley College one, sir.
It's fine. You all can do it.
I have gone through everything. It's very easy, man.
Yeah, but it's little bit different, sir. Like the training mode which we are learning from you, that is more easy, and the Stanley College little bit professional, sir.
So my training is not professional.
So this is professional, but it's easy
He
to
doesn't
learn.
understand the functioning of it, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I'm
very
just
easy
kidding.
to learn it because the way you are
I
teaching
think, sir,
to us,
your training
get the word.
have been in a practical environment, and their training is not in the practical
and
environment.
you know the way you are, sir, the way you are teaching. I mean, it's very easy to learn, but from there we have to learn from slides and all these things, so it's little bit difficult, sir.
Exactly. Those are academic pace, and
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just kidding. Excellent.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. See you next week, inshallah. Okay.
Okay, inshallah, sir.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye.